This story begins at night at the Chan estate, located in the district of Shin-e. Two men are located near a low round table, on which there is a cradle with a baby. One of them sighs heavily. The second confusedly asks, "How so?" In response, he hears that his child is unlikely to live up to 20 years. The kid, looking absolutely healthy and fortunately does not understand the meaning of these words, joyfully waves his hands. The head of the estate Jung De-hyun wonders. And why he is this punishment? Will his son leave the world very young only because his mother could not cope and died in childbirth? His interlocutor has a slightly unusual appearance. The tips of his ears are somewhat pointed. He says that he can't even believe that Jung De-hyun says this under the healer. He is surprised that a man may respond to his own child who is destined to die young. The doctor explains that the boy has 9 meridians yin. He never saw for his practice that someone has a Bai Hui acupuncture point so open. Jung De-hyun asks, "Is it the point that is located on the crown?" The doctor answers in the affirmative. The man understands everything correctly. He says, "If it is open too much, then the person's life will be short." People usually call this as an ascension of the deity. Jung De-hyun is surprised. "Is it only powerful Taoists?" The doctor in response asks, "Does he really believe in such nonsense?" He says that perhaps the man heard about the absolute masters of martial arts involving the upper meridian of the head. Here they are. Just use the Bai Hui point. In this case, a person receives too much energy of the great nature emanating from heaven and earth, and therefore dies, because he is not able to resist such power. The man, standing on his feet, sadly looks at the child. Then it turns away from him and plunges into thought. Jung De-hyun, sighing, says that he is clear to him. Apparently, this is still heavenly punishment. The doctor indignantly asks, "How can he call himself his father after that?" To which the man replies that it is time to leave the doctor. He promises that a fee for a visit will be transferred to him. But the angry doctor, leaving the owner of the estate, replies that he should not do this. He refuses money. Walking along the road, he argues that if fate is more favorable to this child, if he had been growing in the non-traditional sects of the demonic faction, he would be able to become a heavenly demon. Or, if he had been raised in Shaolin, he would learn to use 72 elite fighting techniques. But alas, this boy became a hated child in such a place. Remembering the child, the doctor regrets that he will have to die in such a outback young, without a chance for life. Continuing his way, illuminated only by stars, densely scattered along the sky, he thinks that there is only one chance to survive the boy, if he reaches enlightenment on his own. Decades later, Chonmensti Jin, a family sits at the set table. Jung De-hyun stands, holding a bowl in his hands. He says that since his late father, the adherent of the sect Jongnan, Junggomja, founded this clan, he devoted his whole life to his revival. The man explains, if their sect becomes famous throughout the world, then he will inherit the highest technique of the sect of the Jongnan sect. Therefore, he cannot leave everything halfway. He is very proud that his son followed in the footsteps of his deceased ancestor and managed to join the sect Jongnan. The relatives present at the table congratulate his brother and express their joy, only to think he became an adherent of the sect of Jongnan. They believe that it is just unbelievable. Jung De-hyun raises the bowl and offers to drink. While everyone is drinking, the guy who is at the table is staring at somewhere to the side. The empty chair attracted his attention. Turning to his father, he says that Shin is not yet. Father's face is noticeably gloomy. He replies that he ordered him to stay on the training ground. The son is surprised by his words. Jung De-hyun believes that Shina is better not to attend such a joyful event. He can glue misfortune on them all. The guy is unpleasantly surprised by the words of his father, but does not dare to object to him. Shin, meanwhile, is completely focused on training. Having concentrated, he radiates incredibly powerful inner strength. The energy diverges around him, and his body soars over the floor. He is pleased with the results. Finally, he managed to master the art of movement of the Jung clan. The guy carefully examines his hands, as if not believing that he was able to do it. Shin thinks that with the help of this technique, his muscles are filled with energy, which moves it in space. He is wondering if he will be able to live a little longer thanks to these training. He created the art of movement himself. The guy recalls the conversation with the older brother. Shin explained to him that he did this using the clan cultivation technique. His brother listened to him without much delight. Somewhat embarrassed, he asked Shin to try to understand him correctly. He believes that it would be better if he had not told anyone about his achievements. The elder brother asks, Shin wants him to learn the martial arts, to which he put his hand? And if an energy deviation occurs during training, and he will die, will Shin take responsibility? The guy is bewildered. He does not know what to answer. When his father found out about this, he became furious. Jung De-hyun pounced on Shin. But how dared to intervene in their martial art? Is he really crazy? He seems to imagine himself the founder of the clan. After such accusations, Shin was completely confused. He thinks that the founder of the clan is a person who creates martial arts. Sitting alone, the guy reflects on what his father and brother were told. He did not even think about himself in such a vein, because he never sought it. He just wanted to cure and live with everyone. Suddenly, his attention is attracted by some kind of noise. From his room, he sees that the whole family is in a hurry somewhere, joyfully talking at the same time. Someone says, "They are just in time." Then the words are heard, "Go sooner." Yun Shin, peeping into the yard. He is wondering where all this is in a hurry. He then recalls that today is the day of the visit of martial arts from the sect of the Chihongnan sect. Sect Zhongnan is one of the 9 great sects in the world. It is one of the pillars known as the strongest associations in Shaanxi, along with the sect of Mount Huashan. In that place there are deities of swords. Shine really wants to meet them personally. He recalls the visit of the servants who told him the order of the head of the family. The guy did not believe his ears at first. The reason why he was forbidden to show to important guests that his mother died by giving him life. But he only repeated that this was the order of Jung De-hen. Yun Shin cannot believe that his father could do this to him. But the servant could not tell him anything comforting. He only apologized for the fact that he had to fulfill this order. Shin still decides to go to look at martial artists. He believes that nothing will happen if he observes what is happening from afar. He is sure that such skillful masters have something to learn. A crowd of the same curious as he was gathered near the gate. People are talking among themselves. Someone says, "I wonder who is there?" They answer him that certainly not a dragon with a heavenly sword. The assumption sounds, maybe the elder? One of the men believes if people like them really arrived here, it would be an honor for the clan. The whole family of Jung, led by Jung De-hen, is assembled. None of them even remember about Shine. The crowd is excitedly talking. There is a scream. "They are here!" The martial arts masters arrived sect Zhongnan, and Shin watches what is happening, hiding behind people. The guest enters the courtyard, accompanied by 2 men. Long reddish hair and red cloak are immediately striking in the eyes of everyone. From a thick shock of hair, the ends of the sharp ears are visible. Everyone, including Shin, publishes an exclamation of surprise. Seeing a woman with pointed ears, everyone immediately begins to talk. A noble race. The representative of the noble race arrived. Shin recalls, in books they are described as mysterious creatures that can live forever. Some are even mistaken for deities. Looking carefully at the guest, he admires her aura. The guy notices that the main energy concentrated in her body comes out completely natural. The warrior is not enthusiastic about him. Sighs are heard everywhere. Jung De-hyun says it is a great honor for him to greet her in their modest clan. Leaning in a traditional bow, a man seems to be called his name. The woman thanks him for such a warm welcome. She says that her name is Shin. She is the elder of the sect Zhongnan. Jung De-hyun is mentally amazed. Elder of the sect Zhongnan from a noble race? He asks for forgiveness, considering himself guilty of what he did not recognize. The deity itself in front of him. The woman answers, "Do not worry. She is not here to brag about her status." Jung De-hyun says she has gone such a long way. He asks for forgiveness for his disrespect, and considers himself to be guilty of forced the gods of the sect Junnan to wait outside. The man expresses his willingness to lead the guest into the mansion. Shin, watching what is happening, asks the question, "How long does she already live?" Shin accepts the invitation of Jung De-hyun and follows him. A person standing a little in front of the guy falls in front of the woman passing by them. Shin, whose attention attracted an unexpected movement in the crowd, turns his head in their direction. Her gaze falls on the bewildered Shin. He immediately bows to her in a welcome bow. Jung De-hyun, following the guests, publishing his eyes, publishes a surprised exclamation. He did not expect to see his younger offspring here, and not glad to his appearance. He explains that this is a child, his 3rd son. Shin, meanwhile, leaves the crowd, trying to hide from an unnecessary attention. The woman believes that the guy is quite unusual. He seems to her a smart child. Jung De-hyun apologizes to Shin. He says that his son has bad manners. The interlocutor says, "Is it?" The man says that of course it is embarrassing to admit it, but the guy is a violator of calm in their family. Shin has hope after he saw the energy of the martial arts of the sect, Zhongnan. He resolutely picks up a sword. After studying the art of the Jung clan, he did not know how to develop further, so he wondered what to devote training. Shin takes out the blade from the scabbard. He thinks that it would be nice to try to practice with swords. The sun is already declining to sunset, staining the sky in an orange color. Shin sits at the table on which there are cups. Its accompanying people look out the window. One of them says that this place is better than he thought. His friend agrees with him. Looking at the mountain landscape opening in front of them, they are talking, believing that with so much earth energy, the tyrant sword clan would like to get this place. Shin says, sooner or later they will come here, so they should think over the counterattack. But most likely, they will have to sacrifice a clan. One of the men asks, and they cannot attack them and destroy before they break through the walls? Shin, enjoying the drink, thinks that it would be great if this happened. Looking thoughtfully at the kettle and cups standing in front of her, she turns to her companions. The girl says that among the 13 heavens, the Tyranian sword clan is the most problematic group. She advises them not to lose vigilance and keep the weapon ready. Shin continues to drink tea, but all her thoughts are occupied by the child that she noticed in the crowd. It clearly stands out among the rest. She thinks, what a strange child. The night came, the lights in the house went out, and Shin sits in the lotus position. He is immersed in meditation. He is worried about the point located on his parietal part of the head. He cannot understand why his Bai Hui is so open. Let him not meditate for almost a year because of training, but the amount of energy passing through his head has become even more. He thinks that if it continues, then, less than after half a year, he will lose consciousness. And if this happens, then it turns out he has less than 5 years left. He becomes scared. In the dark, the door creaked. The guy leaves the house in the courtyard. Raising his face to the sky, he wonders that he completely mastered the art of moving the young clan. He could not stop it? Suddenly something attracts his attention. Looking around, he sees an ominous red aura hanging over a mansion. The guy does not understand anything, but clearly feels that ominous energy comes from the other side. Shin hurries to the house. He understands that something is wrong. The closer it is to the mansion, the stronger the smell of blood becomes. He is surprised by unnatural silence. He sees the concentration of an unusual aura and understands that it absorbs sounds. Breaking through it, he thinks that this is a formation trap. Once inside, he freezes. Horror appears in his eyes. The whole yard is dotted with the bodies of dead people and flooded with blood. He thinks that he did not even suspect that something similar was happening at the Chan estate. He goes forward. Around him are dead bodies. Shin asks a question. Maybe that is the fault of that trap? He stumbles on the body of a guy lying in a pool of blood. Bowing, he closes his eyes. Shin thinks that all the dead are the people of the Jung clan. How strong are the killers? Hearing the noise, he hopes that the survivors remained. But, raising his head, he sees an ugly, healthy man standing in front of him with a scar on his face. Behind him, warriors pull the bodies of people killed by them in a heap. The man says, "How stupid." He says, if the guy managed to keep his skin, then he should hide, and not crawl out. One of his friends believes that the boy himself decided his fate and advises to kill him. Shin is warily watched the actions of the healthy man. The man says, I turn to him. He himself heard everything. The order is an order, so that let it forgive. In his palm, energy is concentrated. The big man is preparing to strike, but the guy does not intend to wait. He rushes forward. Shin grabs the healthy man by the hand, which he extended, trying to kill him. The guy acts with internal energy on the enemy. The man screams in pain. Something incredible happens to his hand. The guy lets it go, and the man falls to the ground. His friends look at them in bewilderment. A man stands on his knees, howling in pain. The hand in the place where Shin held it turned black and fell off. The guy stands straightening and fearlessly looking at the enemies. Around him, energy swirls. Warriors clutching at the blades ask, "Who is he?" Shin replies that he is the third son of the head of the clan. A big man who has lost part of his hand rises from his knees. His face is distorted by the mask of anger. Shin, surrounded by flashes of energy, stands with his back to him, but feels his every movement. The man, whose eyes filled with blood from anger, insults the guy and intends to strike him with a healthy hand. Without even turning his head, Shin waves his sword. Squints of blood fly in all directions, and the man's head, separated from the body with one blow, falls from his shoulders. And the guy, meanwhile, without even looking back, rushes forward, to the next enemy. He dwells under the sword of one of the men, on the move, inflicting a mortal blow to him. The guy continues to move forward. In the jump, he straightens out at once with two opponents who became in his way. He strikes with a sword in the chest of a man who dared to become his way. Shin pulls out the sword from the wound, and he falls to the ground. Meanwhile, the guy manages to deliver the same blow to the next enemy. He quickly turns the other way, and again beats the blade of the next striker. Shin freezes in place. The guy stands on the porch. At his feet are the dead bodies of people who dealt with his family. He exhales tiredly, realizing that the battle is over. This is his first training with a delightful sword, but he understood the essence of action. Drops of blood flow from his blade and fall to the ground. Suddenly someone's voice is heard, and the guy squints to the side from where he sounded. He sees that a group of armed people is approaching him. One of the men speaks. Evaluating his actions is not so bad, but nothing special. He believes that these people, whose mental abilities he evaluates extremely low, lost because they lost their vigilance. Shin looks at him inquiringly. He continues to say that even so, it is still amazing. He asks, how can you be so strong at that age? Has he all his life devoted to training a delightful sword? The guy asks, do they belong to the clan of the Bloody Flame? The interlocutor replies that the representatives of this clan are dead at the guy's feet. The man says that they are from the clan sword of Tyrant. The guy mentally repeats the names of their sects. They say that 13 Heaven is the most cruel and powerful in the whole Murim. He thinks, does a man want to say that the clans of the Bloody Flame and the Sword of the Tyrant, which are part of the 13 Heavens, are now here? But why? He asks his question. What could two clans from 13 Heavens do here? The man replies that this is not his business. Shin notes that the man talks to him and does not try to attack. He asks, does he know him? The interlocutor does not understand what he wants to say. The guy explains. He is interested in whether he knows that his family is part of the Desert Fortress, the best sect in Murim. Squeezing the hilt of the sword stronger, he says, therefore, even if a man kills it, he himself will receive significant wounds. Suddenly, a strong energy blow scatters the warriors of the Tyrant Sword clan in different directions. Looking how a man rolls on the ground and then bending over the ground coughs blood, he recognizes him. This is a man from the sect of Junnan. Shin sees a woman rushing to him from above. He does not immediately understand who it is, and is already preparing to beat off the attack. But looking closely, he still recognizes them, today's guest. Elder Eel Shin lands near him. The tip of her blade rests on the ground. A woman stands on one knee, leaning on a sword. Sneak up. She watches what is happening around, ready to break from the place at any moment. The guy, looking around, thinks that the elder is known as the goddess of the sword, but even she is confused. Who is the enemy then? He feels the approach of unusually powerful power. A young man with a sword in his hand falls to the ground. Having barely touched the earth, he rushes forward. The guy looking at him wonders who is it. A stranger of that time, not paying attention to anything, steps towards them. Shin thinks that a man radiates extremely ominous energy. The guy feels that all his thoughts disappear from only one of his eyes. The leader of the Tyrant Sword group, bowing his knees, turns to a stranger, calling him the head of the clan. All his warriors also stand on one knee and greet a man. Shin carefully studies the stranger. He looks at him slightly contemptuously. The guy understands that in front of him is the head of the Turanian Sword clan, a person who is part of 13 Heaven, and is considered a harbinger of disasters in Jianghu. He thinks, why is the one who is considered equal to the chapter of one of the 9 great clans is in a similar place? Elder Ail Shin seems surprised and alarmed. Shin thinks that in any case, if everything continues this way, then they are dead. He exhales air with a noise. The guy thinks it was not, and rushes forward. He strongly attacks numerous opponents. Taking advantage of their confusion, he drives the blade into the leader of the leader, piercing him through. From surprise, the soldiers scatter in different directions. Only the head of the clan is absolutely calm. Yunshin looks directly into the eyes of a man. Proudly straightening up, he asks, will he kill him after that? Returning, the warriors showered him with insults, and exposing the blades, begin to step on him. Suddenly a team is heard. Enough, men stop. The head of the clan tells the guy that his spirit is better than all those present together. Warriors look at him with surprise. Did he really praise this youth? The head of the clan says that life will save the guy. Shin is interested. He wants to say that he cannot kill him. The guy pulls out his sword from the body of a defeated enemy. He instructs a weapon on a man, saying that he cannot deal with him. because he is the only grandson of the former commander of the detachment of the Divine Sword of the Desert Fortress. Elder Il Shin looks at him with surprise. She thinks, is this guy the grandson of the very commander who leads the best detachment of the Desert Fortress? The head of the clan, meanwhile, says, a deserted fortress created by the imperial family in order to prevent the conspiracy of Muram's forces. He believes that contacting them is not a better idea. But this is not the reason why he leaves the guy alive. He explains that he likes his character and spirit. The head of the clan believes, this is what a strong master of martial arts in Jianghu needs. He adds, if the guy had not been connected with the deserted fortress, then he would have taken him as a student. The man resolutely drives his sword into the tile, which was lined with the courtyard of the mansion, easily breaking it. He says that he gives the guy a day to leave this place. The head of the clan claims that no more clan or sect is stipulated on this land. The man unfolds, and accompanied by warriors, leaves En Shin and the elder, or Il Shin. Looking around, he says that he will always be glad to fight a guy. Let him find it when he is ready to take revenge. The warriors of the Turanian Sword Clan leave the courtyard, leaving the dead bodies behind him. En Shin looks gloomily after them. The guy approaches the seriously wounded Jung Dehen, near which his brother is already located. Spanish reigns around, and the bodies of people are lying. He quietly nurses his father. En Shin takes the man by the hand on which blood flow is visible. Jung Dehyun asks his son, why is he so strong? He is interested in how he did it. He answers, all thanks to the art of movement of the Jung clan, which he created and studied thoroughly. The man is surprised. Does he ask the question? Did the son create martial art? Once, Ian Shin had already come to his father and talked about the fact that he created a new style using the clan cultivation technique. But then Jung Dehen, his words brought into a rage. He angrily asked his son, how does he dare to interfere in the martial arts of the clan? Is he in his mind? Did he imagine himself the founder? The father remembered their long-standing conversation and is interested. Did the guy have not stopped training since then? En Shin responds in the affirmative. Jung Dehyun hardly says, that means, the art of moving the Jung clan. Holy art created by the Jung clan. Tears flow from the eyes of a man who realized his delusion. Father tells Ian Shin that he was so rude and stupid. The guy looks at him in alarm, because until now his father kept him from him at a distance, and he was stingy with praise and affectionate word. Jung Dehyun admits that En Shin has the qualities of the head of the clan. The man barely audibly pronounces the last words, my son. His eyes are closed, and a weak spark of life, which still smoldered in this wounded body, goes out forever. The guy still holds the man by the hand, but Jung Dehyun's fingers are limply unclenched. Not believing in what is happening, he calls his father, but he can no longer answer him. And Shin, realizing that he could no longer help him, lets go of his hand and rises. For some time he stands silently, watching his brother crying over his father's body. Nearby is a servant holding a little girl in her arms. The man turns to Ian Shin. The guy, calling him the main courtier, is interested. How he? He replies that everything is in order with her. She just fell asleep when her acupuncture point was blocked. He explains that this was done in order to hide it from the thugs who attacked the estate. Yunshin Il's his brother. He asks him to raise a girl in the sect of Zhongnan. She has an exceptional connection with the 5 elements, and he is sure that they will accept her. Brother asks, what about himself? Yunshin replies that he will take care of himself. On the threshold of the room appears the elder A. Il Shin. She hides the guy. Despite the fact that a deep night reigns in the yard, the woman reports that she is leaving. She explains that now that the head of the tyrant sword clan intervened, she should immediately inform the sect of Zhongnan about this sect. Il Shin asks, what about him? Does he gather in the desert fortress, to the family of his mother? The guy answers in the affirmative. There is no longer a place where he could go to improve. A woman is interested in how about returning to Mount Zhongnan to return with her. She believes that it would be much better. En Shin replies that getting such an offer from the elder of the great sect is a great honor for him. Ail Shin says that she would very much like him to become an adherent of the head of the sect. The guy is surprised by her words and does not hide it. The elder believes that he would be able to do it. En Shin understands that a direct student of the head of the sect Zhongnan could master the absolute sacred art. In addition, the head of the sect Zhongnan is one of the few leading martial arts masters, included in the 10 best masters of the world. But the guy still doubts. Having made the decision, he is inclined in front of her in a grateful bow, and says that he will not forget this great kindness that she showed towards him. En Shin apologizes to the elder. Her companions are in shock. They cannot believe that the guy refuses such a tempting offer. Il Shin, sighing, asks him not to worry about it. She just wanted someone talented like him. Probably the head of the tyrant sword clan also thought. The guy asks for forgiveness again, but the elder stops him. She says everything is fine. The doors of the sect of Zhongnan are always open to him. She asks Ian Shin to remember this. The guy says that he has a question, and Il Shin allows him to ask him. And Shin explains. He knows that the woman is one of the oldest people among noble races. He asks, does she know how to get the fruits from the world tree? She cannot believe that he wants to do it. The fruits of the world tree are protected by the head of the desert fortress, which the emperor recognized as equal to himself. They say that these fruits give eternal life and youth to those who eat them. This is the treasure of heaven. And Shin thinks, could he not live longer than he was allotted with the help of this fruit? Il Shin answers, she did not live half of her term, so she does not have power over the world tree. She only knows that the head of the desert fortress can give them to people. The guy says he should go to the desert fortress. The elder replies that it will not be easy to get the fruit. This is a sacred object, even for them, noble races. And Shin replies that he has no other choice, so there is nothing to be done here. All that he can become the commander of a detachment of a divine sword and perform great exploits. Il Shin supports his choice. She says that she should leave in order to report what happened to her sect. The elder leaves his companions, masters of the sword and student, so that they help him get out here. Il Shin goes to the exit. The guy looks after her. At dawn, the guy thanks men for their help. They answer that you should not talk about it. Next to them are those who are lucky to survive that night. The master of the sword admits that they can be said to play a role in this tragedy. En Shina, who is like that. He turns into the call. In front of him stands a brother, pressing a little hiei. The brother understands that the apology is not to atone for everything that happened to the guy in their clan, and recognizes it. He says, when they meet again, he will try to be a good older brother for Yen Shin. He will do everything in his power, and hopes that everything will be fine with the guy. En Shin replies, let him study the martial arts of the sect of Zhongnan at a rather late age, but he will succeed. At least the guy wants to believe in it. He says that he should train as if his life depends on it. The brother agrees with him, and replies that he understood everything. The girl looks at the guy with huge eyes and calls quietly, Uncle Yun Shin. Looking at the baby, the guy looks at his brother and asks him to protect He-A. En Shin is interested in, where will the main courtier go? He replies that in various places of Nanyan there are small branches of the Yung clan. Since the genealogy of the clan is alive, he will take care of the remaining. The guy says that a man, of course, is known that he is heading a desert fortress. He expresses the hope that they can see from time to time. En Shin knows that the main courtier owns martial arts, and is sure that he will cope. The man agrees with him and bows to him. En Shin hopes that he will enjoy life, and asks him to protect himself. The guy, saying goodbye to loved ones, sets off. The main courtier thinks about his words. The guy wants him to enjoy life. He cannot even recall that any of the people of the Yung clan told him something like that. He tilts his head in a farewell bow. En Shin moves away further and further. Night streets Xianyana are brightly lit. At such a late hour, many people are walking along them. In the inn, where the guy arrived, is also quite crowded. The servant takes a guy to the second floor. He points to the shrine to a free table. Here, besides him, there are no more visitors. Putting a bag of money on the table, the guy admires the night city. Yun Shin thinks that he is finally here. He believes that the desert fortress is truly incredible. The conversation of people sitting in the common room is reached him. One of the men says that people from the entire central plain come from because of them. The local manager tore off the jackpot. He said that due to the influx of guests, a drink ended. The second man, who was sitting with him at the same table, believes that a real chaos has prevailed in the taverns recently. Martial artists get drunk in the insole, although they came to take entrance exams. En Shin is surprised. He did not know that there were entrance tests in the deserted fortress. He asks the question, why didn't he hear about it before? A young man approaches his table. He is interested. The guy is here too in order to try to pass exams? En Shin answers, what about himself? The young man apologizes for not introducing himself at once. He was simply very surprised that he found someone younger than himself here. He says his name is Han Wan Chan. He is from Shanxi, which is quite far from here. The guy is presented in response. He calls his name, saying that Shin Yi arrived from the district. The young man sits down at his table. He replies that this is not far from here. He believes that the path of En Shin was quite easy. The young man says that he had to sweat, fighting off the bandits in the Green Forest and fighting with the pirates. It was very difficult to cope with the latter. Shin recalls a meeting with the robbers. The men were unpleasantly surprised when, not even having time to blink an eye, they lost most of their gang. Then he was forced to spend the night in the forest, which is also unpleasant. He answers the interlocutor that his journey was really easy for him. Hanwon-chan is alarmed around. Then, leaning closer to Aeon Shine, he, lowering his voice, is interested. Maybe they will look and help each other in testing? The guy does not understand what we are talking about. The young man even jumps up from his place in surprise. He cannot believe that Shin does not know about the test of the Desert Fortress. He explains that the Desert Fortress is very different from the usual sects of martial arts. To get there, you need to go through trials that test knowledge in the literature, martial arts, and much more. Pointing to him to the street where many passers-by are walking, Hanwon-chan says, "That's why so many people gathered here. Regardless of whether he has experience or not, when he joins them, he will be given the opportunity to study. So it is not surprising that there are full of martial artists." He explains Shin that many people studied various martial arts to just pass the test. The Desert Fortress is the strongest battle group in the world of martial arts, which inevitably forces everyone's heart to beat with a rapidly. People would say, if you want to conquer the world, owning only one weapon, go to the Desert Fortress. The imperial family, ruling the Central Plains, in order to control the groups of martial arts, collected all elixirs and the best martial arts from around the world in the Desert Fortress. Hanwon-chan says, some believe that traditional sects are much better, but they themselves do not know what they carry. He is surprised. How can combat groups created by commoners be stronger than the Desert Fortress? If this were possible, they would have already created an empire and became rulers. Shin replies that he understands everything. The young man continues to speak. Almost no one was able to go through the test of the Desert Fortress the first time. Hanwon-chan admits that perhaps only one person out of 1,000 applicants succeeded. But even that is usually the heads of the next generation of respected martial arts clans. The young man says that this leads him to the next decision. How to go through the test tomorrow together. Shin, bringing the bowl to his lips, answers, okay. The interlocutor rejoices that the guy is so flexible. He was sure that they would poke. He says, perhaps Shin will be a little confused, but then let him just repeat his actions. It may not look very serious, but the appearance is deceptive. The guy is happy that you just need to go through the tests to get into the Desert Fortress. He did not want to ask for help from the mother's family, and simply did not know where they were. Morning the next day, flags flutter over the fortress, and Shin and Hanwon-chan hurry to the gate. The guy stops, but the satellite rushes him. Shin is in no hurry. He carefully examines the terrain. He reached the goal of his journey, a deserted fortress. Shine is held out by the token, saying that it is the 13th. The guy and his companion are considering the issued numbers. Shin looks around. He is all interested. His attention is attracted by a gloomy man whose face is crossed by a scar. Everyone gathered on a small platform fenced with a low fence. In the middle, it is paved with slabs. Hanwon-chan explains Shina. If the examiner takes his number from him, then he passed the exam. If they ask you to return it to the registrar, then this means failure. He says that the second exam will be the tournament. Shin asks, what about the third test? A friend answers, an interview with the head of the Desert Fortress. Shin is impressed with his words. He clarifies, with the head itself. The satellite responds in the affirmative. There are masters of martial arts who come to Yanyan just for this chance. A conversation with such an absolute master is an incredible opportunity. They hope to get wisdom or advice. Shin replies that he understood everything, and tightly squeezed the token in his hand. The examiner reports that the first test is devoted to the art of owning swiftness. He explains that they must demonstrate one wave, using the fastest technique that they own. He will observe and evaluate their skills. Hanwon-chan, Taiyan's hand with a sword up, shouts that he wants to go first. Shin thinks that you just need to show the quick technique of owning a sword. His companion was nervous, therefore he volunteered. The guy believes that everything is quite simple, and there should be no problems. He looks at Hanwon-chan, who is preparing to demonstrate his art. Shin notes that he has a well-honed spirit. He is strong, even stronger than those bandits that he met on the way here. The young man demonstrates his skillful possession of a sword. The people watching him are delighted. One of the men says that extraordinary energy comes from him. He never saw like that. Yes, he did not even have time to understand anything. Meanwhile, Hanwon-chan awaits with fear what the examiner will say. He, after a while, says, not bad. and he asks him to give him a token. The young man's face illuminates a happy smile. He thanks the man. In the meantime, they call the next subject. Han Wan-chan, who met in his way, En Shin, who has only to go through the test, wishes him good luck. The guy goes to the site. The attention of all those present is now drawn to him. The man who saw him the day before at the inn tells his friend that the guy still came to take exams. Someone says that this young master of the sword has courage. While the guy goes to the examiner, men continue the conversation. Do they believe that if he is from another province, where else he could demonstrate the technique of owning a sword in front of a martial artist of martial arts of a desert fortress? Getting one advice is already very valuable. And Shin freezes in front of a man taking the exam. He hears a team that allows him to begin to demonstrate his art. The guy exposes the sword and makes a short wave. Then he shows his skill to the surprised examiner. En Shin finishes a demonstration of his skill. Han Wun-chan opened his mouth with amazement. The men standing behind him are surprised. When did the sword appear in his hand? The guy hides the blade in the scabbard. The examiner still cannot say even a word. Then he dating. The future of the desert fortress right here. Those present are shocked by this statement. The examiner holds out his hand to pick up a token from the guy. The man looks at him and grunts in surprise. The 13th number? He advises En Shin to adhere to his journey. The guy leaves the site, and the examiner invites the next applicant. Han Wan-chan is in a hurry to catch up with him. He is interested? Perhaps the boy of a famous family? En Shin asks, is it changing something? After entering the desert fortress, he heard that the only thing that matters is martial arts. Han Wan-chan says, it means that he really plans to undergo a test of a desert fortress. The guy asks him a question. Isn't it all here? Yes, and the young man himself wants it too. He admits that the guy says everything right. He thanks En Shin and says goodbye to him. The guy looks after him in bewilderment, not understanding where he is in a hurry. He hopes that the good and talkative Vaughn will pass the second exam. Yun Shin sits in the lotus position, putting a sword in front of him. He is immersed in meditation. He thinks about the second exam. This will be a tournament where you need to compete with other participants in martial arts. He has 3 weeks before this test. En Shin rises and takes the sword. He decides to devote all the time to training. 3 weeks later, the time has come. The young man in white clothes tells the applicants that, until they call them, let them expect here. He leaves them and goes to the gate. One of the guys, looking at the signs that are applied to the young men, says that, in a sense, this is somewhat discouraged. He heard that a white suit means an entry-level martial artist, but he is embarrassed by the fact that the energy of this young man is so strong. They answer him. Is it not obvious? Even just wearing a white form means that their future is promising. And Shina enrages Han Wan-chan. He says the guy has grown a little. He replies that he also looks good. Han Wan-chan proudly replies that he really achieved something. The young man asks, En Shin, after all, remembers that victory is not what is important in this exam. Even simple participation in one of 2 matches is enough to get into the eyes of one of the masters of the desert fortress, which will observe the progress of the tournament. He says, even if this is the most difficult part, but he already has experience. En Shin asks, it means that even if he wins 2 matches, they can still not let him go on? Han Wan-chan answers in the affirmative. He says that the problem is that today the examination managers will have higher requirements. The guy is interested. Why? The young man answers, he heard that White Silent is participating in today's test of Desert Fortress. En Shin clarifies, White Silent from the Namagun? The interlocutor answers in the affirmative. This person managed to destroy the infamous group of bandits even before he turned 15. He decapitated the master of the sword from the non-traditional sect hidden by the killer. Han Von-chan says, there are rumors that he defeated all the best fighters at the tournament of 8 great families, Dragon and Phoenix, when he was only 18. And Shin asks, since he is a young fighter from the Namagun family, then what is he missing? Why should he join the deserted fortress? The young man answers, all because he is a child of concubines. The place of the head of the clan does not shine for him. He explains, if you go up to the post of Lord of the Desert Fortress, this is tantamount to the position of the head of 8 great families. The authorities are much more than that of the simple head of the clan. The Desert Fortress maintains order in Jianghu, in the very heart of the Central Plains. There is a voice. Nanyan, the province of Henan, district Xin-yi, Yong-yun Shin, please go out. The guy says Han Wun-chana that he hopes to see him again here, in a deserted fortress. En Shin goes to the gate where the second test awaits him. He is greeted by a formidable look of a man taking out a blade out of a scabbard. They stand on the site, waiting for a signal. The examiner pronounces, "They started." The enemy of the guy begins to giggle. Enshin is a little puzzled by his strange behavior. His opponent, grimacing, says, "The guy, probably in despair, does not know his place in the world. It resembles a moth circling in the light of a lamp. He is probably interested in who is standing in front of him, but he does not even have time to finish the phrases. Like a crushing blow that crushes his teeth, throws him far back. A man falls to the ground, unable to rise anymore. Two men drag the defeated enemy Enshin from the arena. The guy stands, waiting for the further development of events. The men standing around silently look at him. A young man approaches Yunshin with a question. Can he try his hand at the battle with him? The guy looks at the enemy, evaluating his strength and capabilities. They stand on the site, waiting for the examiner's signal. One of the men standing in the crowd says, finally, his friend is interested in which of the masters will take a guy. He believes that the commanders of the branches will fight for him. The interlocutor thinks that he is stronger than them. His friend replies that he does not expect less from the Namugun, referring to the young man who caused to fight with Enshin. The guy, having heard their conversation, looks at the opponent in a completely different way. He understands that in front of him is a white Sealan. The Namugun is a tire, which they spoke about with Han Vaughn. The audience is interested. Will they today become witnesses to the technique of boundless heaven? Enshin thinks that the young man looks 5 years older than him. It does not seem that he is at the level that is too tough for him. He believes that, thanks to the techniques of the family, he is in better physical form than the enemy, but, unfortunately, is inferior to him in some other aspects. The young man tends his head in a traditional greeting before the battle. He seems, saying that his name is Namgun, is a tire. He is from the clan of Namgun. The young man says that he mainly trained the technique of boundless heaven and endless steps. Then with the words, "It's nice to meet," Namgun takes a blade out of the scabbard, and Shin tends his head in a response greeting. He says that he studied the art of the Jung clan. The young man looks at him with some amazement. Seeing that Shin is not going to get a sword, he is interested. The guy does not want to use his weapon. Shin takes on the handle of the blade and is prepared for battle. The enemy instructs the sword on Shin. The guy concentrates in his hand, squeezing the handle of the blade. Internal energy. The main essence of the technique that he has been practicing recently is unpredictability. Its essence is an unexpected main attack in the unforeseen rhythm. Shin thinks, if he succeeds, he will be able to make the enemy weak in vigilance. The examiner gives the team. They started. The blades of Shin and Namgun were crossed. The guy's sword does not withstand the blow and is split into 2 parts. They freeze. Witnesses of the fight are also confused. While the guy looks at the fragment of the sword, the audience talks excitedly. One man says that Namgun had a tire 1. A person standing next to him supports him. White Sealan, what a terrifying, amazing sword. The young man lowers the blade, realizing that there will be no continuation of the battle. Namgun, the tire's lowering his head and says that he lost. Everyone is at a loss, not understanding what he has in mind. A man standing in the crowd says that this is Young Shin, a frightening and delightful sword. A person who is nearby believes that the guy is 5 years younger than the enemy. They are wondering, cannot he use true energy in his techniques? Looking at Shin, they say that a powerful master of martial arts was hidden in the Henan. It's even scary to imagine who he will become. The examiner clarifies the name of the guy. Then he points to his door. The man says, if he goes north, he will see another garden. He tells him to wait there. Shin tells Namgung that he would be very glad to fight him again. The young man replies that he wanted to say the same. And he adds that he will wait for this to be impatiently. The guy goes to the garden, where the examiner ordered him to go. Several boys are already waiting there, among whom is Han Wan-chan. Seeing the guy, one of them is surprised. Such a young could go through the second exam? They expected that the Namugun grabbed the tire to enter the first. Shin knew that he had no chance of winning if the battle was delayed. That is why, as soon as the duel began, he used the most extreme form of the magnificent sword that he knew. However, due to the fact that Namgun grabbed his sword with his true energy, his blade broke. From the guy's side, this was a failure due to the reckless use of a delightful sword. But instead of celebrating the victory, the opponent admitted his defeat. Shin believes that this is the nobility of a famous family. He recalls how one of the spectators guessed the true background of what was happening. He still cannot use true energy in his techniques. Clan Jung, the third-rate branch of the clan in the district of Sin-yi. If at home there was someone who knew how to use such a skill, he would have learned to him. However, now the guy knows that. It dawned on him how best to do everything only when he saw his mistake. Shin recalls what is happening on the site. Now he understands. It is not as simple as to invest his energy in a sword. He can use true energy as a means to become a single whole with a sword. The young men are surprised at what they had to witness. Looking at a guy surrounded by a powerful aura, they understand that there is a resonance with a sword. They consider this impossible because Shin is very young. The guy feels it as if the sword and his body were combined together. Shin smiles pretty, squeezing the hilt of the sword. He notices a bus standing next to him, who, seeing that he had come to his senses, congratulates him on enlightenment. Seeing how the young man stands, putting his hand on the hilt of the blade, a little in front of him, the guy thinks, did he defend him? Out of fear that someone can stand in the way of his enlightenment? He tells Namgun the tire that he did not know that he was protecting him, and thanks the young man. Then Shin congratulates him on the test of the desert fortress. The rest are at some distance from them. The young man waves his hand to attract the attention of Shin, saying that, in fact, he is here too. The guy congratulates him, and then listens to response congratulations. Han Wonchan asks, does he know that he has a nickname? The guy is a little surprised by his words. He asks with bewilderment, what is the young man talking about? When someone shows exceptional combat skill or attracts attention, people give him a nickname and then turn to him like that. Most nicknames represent a great honor for martial artists, not counting those who commit acting actions. The swordsman from the cliff, the first neutral spirit, and White Sillin. These are all nicknames. Namgun, Genu Shin, says that he also heard about it. Shin is surprised. He just passed the test. White Sillin reports that the guy was nicknamed a lightning-fast genius. He received the nickname due to the lightning technique, the light skill that he demonstrated in the exam. Namgun, the tire, says that he himself would like it. Even if masters of martial arts of the desert fortress call him this way, then it turns out, his nickname in Jianghu. Shin repeats, a lightning, otic genius. And then he asks, and why did the guys decide that people did not make fun of those who just a little cleverly owned a sword? Namgun grabbed the tire laugh at his words. He says, if this is a little for the guy, then he is so completely at all. The lightning genius Jung Shin is a name that the guy did not even dream of when he trained at the Chung estate. A team is heard in the deserted fortress. Get together all around. They stand at the building that affects its height. The examiner announces that the last test remains. If they pass it, they will join the desert fortress. Shin thinks about the upcoming meeting with the head, a living part of the story and one of the strongest masters of martial arts. They observe how one of the applicants goes to the last test. After some time, he shows in the doorway. Everyone looks at him with expectation, but a man, clearly saddened, not paying attention to anyone, goes away. Shin sees that everyone comes out pretty quickly. He thinks, is the chapter just looking and does not say anything? Here is another man leaves the tower, and his face reads disappointment and sadness. Finally, the guy hears how to shout his name. He goes to the building, not knowing what awaits him ahead. He was ordered to rise to the very top, and he begins a long climb up the stairs. He reaches the door and freezes in indecision in front of her. After standing a little, Shin still decides to enter. He walks around the hall in which green vegetation is raging. Huge rhizomes braid columns and creep on the floor. Finally, at a huge, in the entire wall, windows on a small elevation, he sees a sofa on which a person sits. Because of the bright light that beating from the window, he does not immediately manage to consider who is in front of him. He knows one thing for sure. This person is the head of the desert fortress, which is considered almost the strongest in the world. Since a person does not look at him, he, wanting to attract his attention, seems to be. The guy notices a pointed ear, visible from under the pile of greenish hair. When a person turns his head to him, there is no limit to amazement and Shin. A woman with large emerald eyes sits in front of him. She says, he is in the blood kinship with this child. And Shin asks what she has in mind, thinking that she probably knows his mother's family. She replies that it seems he already understood everything. The chapter believes that he is not a timid dozen. The guy says that he is the grandson of the former commander of the detachment of the Divine Sword. The woman replies that he will soon become part of the Council of Elders. This person is not one of those who just give up. Looking at the guy, she notices that he was wounded, and Shin replies that you should not worry. Nothing serious happened. These are just family affairs. But she doesn't think so. The woman says that everything is just hidden by his trained body. She suggests that he probably lived only 15 years. The head of the desert fortress agrees with his opinion that an outsider should not climb into it. But he believes that it is still necessary to resolve this issue. Shin apologizes. He thinks that an extraordinary look that she radiates as a person with absolute power is a topic for conversations and not his family problems. The woman gets up from the sofa and, standing in front of him in full height, says that she likes him. She considers it funny that he did not bow his head, although he came here for a reason. The head of the desert fortress says that she has what he really needs. Looking at her, the guy thinks, does she really know that he came with a specific purpose? He is wondering if she knows that his acupuncture point by Hui is too open. He decides to ask a woman about it. Shin asks the question, will it be able to survive like him if the fruit of the world tree is eaten? She replies that now there is no reliable information about this, and then adds that he can get what he wants. The guy asks, can he get the fruit of the world tree? The head of the desert fortress replies that everything will depend only on his actions. Shin says that this is enough for him and thanks her. He asks, is he now a master of martial arts of the desert fortress? The woman smiles mysteriously. Then he says, yes, and lets go of the guy. Looking at him, she says, the next commander of the detachment of the divine sword. Her words echoed in the ears of Shin while he is walking along the corridor. The next commander of the detachment of the divine sword. He does not understand whether she made fun of him or still sees some potential in him. An unexpected guess comes to his mind, forcing him to stop. Shin thinks, perhaps it was a hint, and he will be able to get the fruits of the world tree if he becomes the commander of the detachment. The young man's last test follow the man. He thinks that from the whole crowd, as a result, there are only 4 successful candidates. Looking around, he asks if they know what is the main task of the desert fortress. Han Wan-chan is interested in, is this not the disclosure of the insidious plans of masters of martial arts? The man answers, right, but this is far from all. The task is much more global. There is a certain procedure that must be observed. It also includes the prevention or suppression of conflicts in the world of martial arts in general. The man says that no one can predict how the battle in the world of martial arts will turn out. Now that the earth is full of rumors about the disclosure of the new location of the tomb of the heavenly demon, the central plains can again flood with blood. If those who crave secret techniques and unsurpassed combat elixirs fought among themselves, this is okay. However, the cruelty of greedy masters of martial arts affects not only other masters, but also ordinary people. To catch these hellish events again is the same as returning to the pre-imperial period. Han Wan-young pronounces with interrogative intonation, obviously wanting to get more information. An incident with a tomb of a heavenly demon. The man says that since that terrible moment has passed as a whole 17 years, he explains that the problem is not only in Samvaido. Old fractions and 8 great sects also add trouble. He continues to say, if you ignore this, ordinary people will suffer, and if people are dissatisfied, then this will make it difficult to collect taxes and create problems for the government. Shin carefully listens to his story. Meanwhile, the man sums up his speech, which is why the imperial family spends a tremendous number of resources on the maintenance of this place. Stopping and turning to the young men, he says that the desert fortress sets a difficult task for them. It consists in eliminating martial artists. He clarifies those that distort the usual pace of people's life. Shin thinks this means to be decapitating enemies that prevent people from living. Indicated the house, the man says that they will live here. As soon as they are settled, they will be determined in the core corresponding to their grouping, and they will be issued as essential items. He wishes them good luck. Shin in the lotus pose sits on the bed. He has not believed that already a week has passed since he is here. He thinks that the distribution takes more time than he expected. He hears a knock on the door and the question is it possible to enter it? The guy permits, and then Hong Wan-chan looks at the door. Shin asks, why did he come? He replies that rumors have reached him that the distribution is over, and they will be in the same combat group of Mugvanig. The guy mentally repeats the name of the group. Meanwhile, Han Wan-chan, crouching next to Shin, asks, rumors have already reached him? The guy clarifies, what does he mean? The young man explains, the leaders of the 17 combat groups under the leadership of the Gom Gom Dana participated in martial arts for the selection of new masters. The guy thinks, it means that the leaders of the combat groups represent the desert fortress? He asks. A friend wants to say that group leaders are obliged to compete with each other? Han Wan-chan replies, yes. He, smiling slyly, says that many simply want to find a nickname by the type of white silent or lightning, Odic genius. The next day, at the combat training camps, Mugvanig, Shin and his friend stand in the center of the hall in a new form of white color with insignia on the shoulders. Han Wan-chan cannot be a new thing. Ma Jin, leader Mokvanig, appears in front of them. En Shin heard that the man claims the title of the strongest among the 17 leaders of the desert fortress. The guy admits that he clearly has significant arguments for that. A man whose face cuts a scar is carefully examining beginners. Then, turning to Ian Shine, he says that he is a lightning, otic genius. The guy confirms his hunch. The man says he sees his spirit. People like it do not give up easily. He says that the fighting forces under the guidance of Shin Gom Dan in the desert fortress are somewhat like a sect in the Central Plains. Here, they will learn martial arts and fulfill missions. Those present are their elders and mentors. At these words, a man indicates the guys standing against the wall. Han Wan-chan pulls his hand up. He has a question. Ma Jin allows him to speak. The young man thanks him for the opportunity. He asks the question. The man says that they will learn martial arts in the deserted fortress. But does this mean that everyone will learn the same martial arts? Leader Mokvanig replies that this is not so. Everyone will learn a unique style. He adds that, of course, their knowledge is limited only by Magvanig techniques. The young man carefully listens to his answer. Then he publishes a joyful cry, the famous Mokvanig. Ma Jin says stubborn training is necessary for survival. En Shin thinks that he also had heard about this technique. Mokvanig is a fairly well-known group among the 17 forces under the leadership of Shingom Dana. They somehow collided in a battle with the 24 elite masters of the Skasan sect and did not lose a single fighter. This incident only strengthened the faith of those who believe that the desert fortress has no equal in the world. Ma Jin says the desert fortress belongs to the Wanli sect. Here the attack on the martial arts of the sect is not considered a betrayal. Therefore, they can challenge the strongest to study and improve. En Shin is surprised. He asks, "Is this not a betrayal? Why?" A man explains that there are too many non-standard fighters in the world of martial arts. Someone practiced demonic arts before loss of memory. And someone simply took possession of the mind of incomprehensible arts, allowing to slip past the strongest masters and escape into hidden valleys. Ma Jin explains, even if you practice the desert fortress for a long time, this does not give any advantages in the eyes of the imperial family. He says, carefully looking at him. Therefore it is so important to do everything in their power to become stronger, otherwise death. The man nods at the young man sitting under the wall, who, unlike others, is dressed in a blue suit. And he adds, however, they should once go to the mission and return with the wound from the sword Namogun Chael Goma. They will immediately understand what he has in mind. The young man in a blue robe says thoughtfully, "Oh yes, Javan Jem Heng." He says it is really scary. And Shin, looking at him, thinks that Javan Jem Heng is a world-famous transcendental technique, which only the legitimate heir to the Namogun family is able to master. He asks the question, if we are talking about Namgun Chael Homa, is he not considered one of the strongest masters among them? The young man looks mockingly at Ian Shin, moving a blue hat on his forehead. The guy cannot believe that he really ran into this technique and survived. Meanwhile, the young man rises and goes to them. He asks, "Will we start with a lightning-fast genius?" The young man says, he heard that his fast sword has no equal. He declares En Shin that he wants to see this himself. The guy takes a few steps to the side to take a convenient position for the fight. Around his legs, energy begins to circle. Everyone is surprised to look at what is happening. En Shin, with one wave of the sword, confirms the nickname given to him. The enemy is taken by the handle of the blade and takes it out of the scabbard. For some time they are standing opposite each other, ready at any moment, both to repel the attack and attack themselves. The young man says that his name is Chon Men. He was born and raised here, in Yangnan. The guy appears in response, calling the name, and saying that he is from Shinyi. The enemy answers, "I see." Then he mockingly pronounces, "Well, there is also an outcome. What to say?" Chon Men continues to mock. He says that even a 10-year-old child is able to catch up with the wind with a sword while practicing. The young man believes that only in the real battle will it become clear that he can. This will be seen from his waves. En Shin thinks gloomily. In the wind or what? Chon Men says. Since he was able to be here at that age, it means that he is quite talented. He advises the guy to show that he can. Chon Men invites him to reveal the potential of the sword. The guy agrees, he says, "Okay," and takes out the blade from the scabbard. Those present exhales in surprise. Is it really a black sword? Yun Shin is ready for battle. His gaze is determined. He mentally gives himself a team to concentrate. Then he reads the enemy's breathing energy. The guy decides that right now the right time has come for the attack, and rushes forward. He uses the technique of a swift sword. The enemy easily beats off his attack. En Shin is surprised. When Chonmen managed to put it on the blade, he thinks that everything is true. The young man survived against the sword Namgun Chelya, a real master. He decides that everything is simpler than it seems, and again rushes at the enemy. Yunshin is ready to take a chance. He dwells under the sword of Chonmena. He passes literally above his head. Turning around, the guy strikes, but the enemy at the last moment manages to block it. The young man is noticeably impressed by the skills of Enshin. A moment and the guy loses the enemy from sight. He feels that the young man who was behind him is already close. Chonmen brings a sword. He is confident in his victory. The blade again flashes over the head of Enshin, who manages to dodge. He is counterattack. Chonmen makes an incredible somersault, but the guy's sword knocks a hat from his head. The young man lands. Yunshin stands with the sword. Chonmen rises. They stand opposite each other with swords in their hands. Those present cannot take their eyes off the exciting sight. Enshin holds a sword in front of him, preparing to continue the battle. He looks at the opponent's pointed ears, thinking. As expected, he is from a noble race. Enshin thinks that then you need to try a resonance with a sword. But realizing that the enemy is in no hurry to attack, and looking around he wonders why all so stunned. He asks Chonmena, he has what to say? This question seems to return the young man to reality. Enshin says, he knows that Chonmen himself allowed him to do several attacks. He asks him to be honest. The young man, slightly piercing, asks the question, how old is he? The guy replies that he is 15 and is interested. Does it matter? He believes that the enemy usually does not care. Only real achievements are important. Chonmen is stunned. 15? Enshin thinks, what is the difference? How many years if the question is about life and death? The young man is amazed. Such skill at such a young age. Those present agree with him. Voices are heard. It is incredible. The heavens themselves must have been mistaken. Enshin hears the guys talking. Someone says that he visited the Dragon and Phoenix tournament, but did not see anything like that there. Even if someone studies the path of perception from birth, reaching such heights is just something. One of the guys says, and in his district he is still considered a rare talent. Chonmen, smiling, hides the sword in the scabbard. Enshin is puzzled around. A scream is heard. Majin acts on Han Vaughn with the help of internal energy concentrated in his hand. A man who did not really like the unrestrained reaction of the young man says that at least he survived. He advises him to analyze this and extract a lesson. Entire concentrates energy in the solar plexus. Majin is watching him. Then the man is interested. He already understood the essence of the principles. The guy replies that this is Yun Tun Mue, which means freedom and liveliness in thoughts or actions. Majin says the answer is correct. Regardless of the situation, the body is always capable of movement. And a continuous smooth stream is the true essence of the technician Magvanig. He explains that further the guy needs to comprehend the secrets of martial arts. And Shin does not understand what he wants to say. Men believes that it is better to see once than to hear 100 times. He leads students to 2 lanterns, displaced from stone and standing at the entrance to the building. Ma-Jin puts his hand on one of them and tells the guys to look carefully. Near the hand of Ma-Gin, an energy flow flows. After a couple of moments, he already covers his whole body. The man continues to stand without tearing his hands from the lantern. Shin understands that he pours all his strength into the upcoming blow. Ma-Jin strokes the stone flashlight with all his power. All students observe how after this the lantern is split into small fragments that showered to the ground. A man stands in front of a pile of stones. Pupils remain silent. Then Ma-Jin turns and says, turning to Ian Shine, an ideal moment and an optimal blow. He believes that his path of martial arts draws this trajectory for the guy. If you perfectly follow this path, then you can reach an excellent blow. Shin thinks that in other words it is to understand when and where it is better to beat. Ma-Jin says it is difficult to master this, looking only once. Still, this is a skill that comes only with practice. This is what the guy will have to work on all his life. Aloud, Shin asks, right? And at the same time he thinks, to work all his life? But it seems to him that he will do it now. The guy decides to try. He needs his hand and goes to the second lantern. The man is surprised. He asks, the guy decided to try? Standing in front of the lantern, Shin thinks this is his path of martial arts of all the next instinct. He believes that he simply needs to follow him as a result. Shin, picking up a weapon, resorts to the technique a resonance with a sword. Closing his eyes, he focuses, discards unnecessary thoughts and concentrates power. Feeling readiness, the guy opens his eyes and strikes. He beats with a sword at one point, cracks appear on the stone, and then the lantern crumbles completely, turning into a pile of stones. With 1 point blow, Ian Shine manages to destroy a massive stone product, looking at the stones lying at him, but he thinks, that's the whole secret of the martial arts path. The guy rejoices that he comprehended the basics of the technique of Magvanig. Now he can only practice this in a real battle. He turns to Magin, wanting to hear his opinion. The man, crossing his arms over his chest, silently looks at him. Enshin sighs, upset it probably came out weakly, after all, the first time. To be used properly, you need more real experience. Looking at the stones, he says, when life and death can be decided in an instant, ordinary training mean little. Pupils look at the guy wondering, what was it? Enshin is inclined in front of Magin and thanks him for the lesson. The man says, now he must think carefully how to teach him. The next day, Han Wan-chan, going up to the guy from behind, asks, he heard their elders recently collided with the Changhan group? The young man sits next to Ian Shin on the steps of a long staircase. The guy asks, what about the laws of the desert fortress? Is the fight outside the training sites not the basis for punishment? And Shin is interested in why did they fight. Hon Vu-chan says that the students from the Chang'an group started a quarrel by drunk. One of them said that under the leadership of Ma Gin and Ma Gvanig, you will not learn anything. Yun Shin is surprised. Is this the whole reason? A friend says that he clearly does not understand the world of martial arts. In this place, everything works like that. He explains, one careless word can turn into a conflict. And only by overcoming such trials, you can build your reputation and freely wander later. He believes that any victory is an object for pride, isn't it? The young man says that their elders simply protect their brand new ones. If they told him this, then he would simply not know where to go. Enshin suggests that those just have personal scores with Magvanig. He thinks this is a good opportunity. If he wants to get the fruits of the world tree that all noble families revere, then he needs to achieve a lot. And this requires powerful allies. They say that brave warriors must owe their lives in order to fade. Enshin believes that it would be nice to make them in advance with his debtors. He decisively rises. His friend looks at him in surprise. The guy says that Han Van-chan is right. He continues to look at him incomprehensibly. Enshin explains, if the elders even exposed the swords because of him, then he cannot just leave it. He must go to them. The guy decisively goes forward. A friend in a hurry after him, he delighted with the spirit of Yun Shin. He knew that he was not alien to the feeling of a real warrior. The guy thinks, do real warriors really live like that? They come to the training site, where their elders train under Ma Gin's supervision. The guys watching the sparring turn to them. One of them asks, new ones or what? After all, they have no training today, but they still came to train? He is surprised by their zeal. The second guy is interested in why strain so much at the initial stage. A friend supports him now. At this stage, respect is more important. But Yen Shin, without listening to them, rushes to Ma Gin. Han Wan-chan reacts to their words with a respectful bow. The man looks at them with surprise. They bow their heads in greeting. He asks, do the guys have any problems with training? En Shin says he wants a duel. A man allows him to choose an opponent for himself. He is sure that any of those present will be happy to agree. But the guy clarifies, the enemy will not be from the group of Magvanig. He claims that he wants a duel with someone from Changhon. Ma Jin and everyone present look at him with surprise. The man asks, probably this is because of yesterday? He believes that there is no need to worry so much. The guy thinks that he is actually a conflict himself and is not interesting. En Shin explains that he simply admires Changhan techniques for a long time and wants to experience them personally. Ma Jina surprises his enthusiasm. But he likes that the guy shares the feelings of the elders. En Shin says that he wants to fight with the famous art of the sword, using the true form of Magvanig. He asks the master to allow him to do this. The guy believes that he will gain experience, and he will try other techniques. He will also acquire the trust of the senior, triple benefit. He incesses his head in front of the master, asking for his permission. Ma Jin says that he had never seen Changhan's military equipment, and did not fight them side by side. He believes that a duel is not a problem, but Changhan will not spare him. En Shin assures that this is exactly what he needs. The senior students are struck by his words. They admire. This is the spirit of the real leader of the desert fortress. They can't wait to look at the guy in the future. They believe that if he succeeds, it will be worthy to lead the Magvanig group itself. Ma Jin, having weighed all the pros and cons, agrees. He tells En Shin that he will give his request to the head of the Changhon. The guy's hand clenches into a fist. En Shin comes to a demonstrative battle with Changhon. A lot of people gathered in the hall. The enemy skeptically examines the guy. Among those present, surprised voices are heard. Real. White, that is, the younger student, calls a blue, senior student, to a duel. Someone clarifies this is just training sparring. Han-Wan-Chan hears how the guys are talking about the fact that for more than 10 seconds, tire will not be enough. All those present are sure that the newcomer will not last longer against the older student. The enemy of the guy thoughtfully rubs his chin. He says that this is incomprehensible to the mind. Khan Cholmok, the leader of the Changhon group, also looks at Shin with disbelief. Then the man says to Maginu, he is ready to put one of Changhon's spiritual pill that this newcomer will not last 10 seconds. Leader Mukvanig is surprised. He asks, is it too much bet? Khan Cholmok pushes him. Was he really scared and confident in losing? Majin asks not to tease him. He says that spiritual pills are not a trifle. The leader of the Changhon group replies that the honor of Mukvanig and Changhon is honor. Does he really think that he would joke? Majin takes a bet. The interlocutor answers, perfectly, and sits in a chair, intending to watch the duel. Leader Mukvanig believes that in his subordinates you need to believe. Khan Cholmok squeezes his fingers with a crunch. The enemy asks. The guy says that his name is Shin. He responds in the affirmative and is inclined in a welcoming traditional bow. Shin casts a look at the opponent. He thinks, in front of him is a warrior in blue clothes. Everyone starts with the whites, but if they advance in their business, they get blue robes. And time does not matter here. Sometimes it takes more than 10 years to the transition from white to blue. But even the greatest masters of large sects are considered with the blue warriors of the desert fortress. The enemy says that he has been training Changhon's sword for 20 years. They say that the sword has no eye. But the weapon of the true master definitely has the eyes. He warns that in this sparring he will not restrain himself, and asks the guy to take this into account. Shin easily agrees with him. The enemy takes out the sword from the scabbard. He becomes in a combat rack. The energy flow envelops his body. Group leaders are closely watching what is happening. Shine is interested in which the mystery of the sword is used by the blue warriors of the Shanshan. He mentally orders himself to discard unnecessary thoughts. The guy exposes the blade. He thinks no matter what the enemy can do, he is here to reveal his skills. The representative of the Changhon group says that he will give him the first move. He tells the guy to start. Shin uses the technique of time. With an incredible speed, he rushes to the enemy, but the man manages to substitute his sword under his blade. He is amazed at the speed of the guy, and hardly restrains his onslaught. Shin continues to attack, and the enemy is forced to defend himself. The battle continues. The guy's lightning movements are striking. Khan Cholmok does not believe his eyes. Is it really a newcomer speed? Majin thinks that, looking at this youth, he even forgets to breathe. But with the experience of Shin, the only option for victory is to intercept the initiative now. The guy strikes the enemy, who forces him to cover his eyes. He lunges, and the man barely manages to block the blow. The play of time accelerates the mind. Shin thinks that he has grown a lot since he came here. The principles of martial arts accumulate in a body, clogged with the art of movement of his clan. The more crooked the trajectory of the sword, the more the back muscles are involved. He thinks, if you apply rotation, then the energy forms a whirlwind. Shin strikes the enemy with a powerful blow, forcing him to raise his hand with the sword up. The man opened, and the guy decides to use the moment. Approaching another blow, he thinks that he seems to have mastered another equipment. His attacks are so swift that the enemy is forced to take a defensive position. But another crushing blow is knocked out by the blade from his hands. Shin puts the tip of the sword to the male's throat. Those present are struck by such a turn of events. Silence reigns in the hall. The leader of the Changhon group jumps from his place. Majin laughs pretty. Masters who were present, as judges, are also unable to believe what they saw. Finally, one of them nevertheless announces the victory of Shin. Han-Wan-Chan rejoices for a friend. Welcome screams are heard, and Shin hides the sword in the scabbard. His opponent still cannot recover. Shin thinks he was lucky. He won because a sudden outbreak of inspiration added strength to his impulse at the right time. Fight again. Everything can turn out differently. He thanks the enemy for allowing him to enjoy near his stunning level of owning a sword. He believes that the battle came out glorious. The man goes to his sword lying on the floor. Leaning, he raises his weapon, throwing his sword on his shoulder. He says that the guy's skill does not correspond to his age at all. He believes that Shin is surprisingly gifted in fencing. Leaving the arena, he pronounces, "You say Shin to call?" So young, but power is simply incomprehensible. Those present are talking. Mukvanig received a treasure, even enviable. Majin gestures Khan Cholmoku about his loss. Shin exhales tiredly, yet the battle was not easy for him. He decides to name the new Chukma-gen technique. Ma Jin, who approached him with a casket in his hands. Leader Ma Gvanig throws her boyfriend. Shin catches the box. Opening it, he does not believe his eyes and clarifies, "Is this what he thinks?" Ma Jin replies that this is the spiritual pill of Changhon, and adds that she is rightfully. The young man in blue clothes stands on the roof and examines the surroundings. The girl, in a suit of the same color, says Chon Menu, sitting on the steps, is a really monstrous guy. Bai Mei Li, nicknamed the Ilian Sword, believes that to defeat such an experienced swordsman as a blue-winged fan of Kanchu is really something. She adds that Yen Shin is not only talented and hard-working, but also modest and polite. She likes his unique ability to grab martial arts on the fly. Chon Men agrees with her. He also has not yet seen such a potential. The girl says that every time she uses equipment in sparring with someone else in the presence of Yen Shin, he easily recreates the same movements. But in his performance they look more sophisticated, says Bai Miley. She says that it is even somehow embarrassed to use mediocre methods in front of him. The girl believes that he is inherent in some innate ability to catch the very essence of the technique. Chon Men with a smile ends the phrase he had begun, as if he always knew them. The young man agrees. He is really a monster. Un Shin, holding his legs under himself, sits on the floor in the room. Ma Jin stands next to him. The man says that he does not know what kind of pill the guy can learn. He tells En Shin that this is usually about 60 to 70%, but depending on the circumstances, it may be less. Ma Jin adds, if she does not even live up to the expectations of the guy, then let not put pressure on herself. He believes that in this case, En Shin can damage his energy core or meridian, if not careful. The guy agrees with the teacher. The man continues to explain that the key to the assimilation of the pill is to allow her energy to circulate with his qi until it completely dissolves. If the stream of his qi becomes unstable, then it will intervene, so that Yen Shin let it remain calm and follows the current. The guy throws a pill in his mouth. Her energy begins to spread inside it. The energy whirlwind surrounds it, throwing it off the empty box. Ma Jin carefully monitors what is happening. Bai Mei Li says, it seems they have already begun. Chon Menu is interesting how strong their youngest will become after the absorption of the energy pill. And Shin continues to sit in the lotus pose. Its inner power grows. Ma Jin thinks, this is the first experience of absorption with the guy. But at the same time, his stream of qi did not even flinch. The man did not have to intervene in the process, and he continues to observe what is happening, ready to help at any moment. Finally, Yun Shin raises his head and evaluates his capabilities. Ma Jin congratulates him. He completely learned the energy of the pill. The guy replies that his QI is noticeably stronger. The man is surprised. Was the guy could absorb all the energy himself without any help? Meanwhile, Yun Shin thinks that with an increase in internal energy, he can feel something that he had not even noticed before. Throughout the perimeter of the region, he feels the presence of the elders. The guy asks the teacher a question. Did they all guard him while he absorbed the pill? The man only silently looks at him with a certain degree of surprise. En Shin asks, why are everyone so kind to him? Ma Jin explains that it is not specifically about him. It is natural to take care of all its members for the group. He says that in the world of martial arts, where the question of life and death often arises, solidarity is natural. The teacher adds, the higher his combat skills, the better it is for grouping Magvanig. Later, when it was already getting dark, Yun Shin, sitting on the bed, plunges into thoughts. He feels that his internal energy has increased. It is incomparable with the one that was before. Despite the later time, he decides to go to the training room to see how much he became stronger. On the way, Bai Miley, a beginner naughty him. He recognizes the girl and pronounces with interrogative intonation, the Ilian Sword? She is interested. He could not resist and came here to train? The guy answers in the affirmative. Bai Miley says that she also picked up inspiration to practice while watching his battle. The guy notices that she was raised and congratulates the girl. She replies that this is only a small step forward. Bai Mei apologizes. Perhaps he wanted to practice alone, but she offers him sparring. En Shin replies that single training can be carried out at any time, and Ilian to learn from the older sword is a rare opportunity. The girl asks to call her just a Bai. She says that this is enough. The guy is inclined in front of her in a traditional bow. They diverge at some distance, wanting to start a duel. Yun Shin, taking out the sword from the scabbard, says that he will begin. The girl does not mind this. She is not even going to resort to weapons. She gives a sign with a wave of fingers so that he begins to act. The guy rushes to the attack. Bai Miley evades, and Yun Shin, holding his sword, intercepts. Her second hand is shrouded in a cloud of aura. She beats her Yunshin in the chest. The guy retreats, and the girl is preparing to deliver another blow. Her fist is greeted by the advantage of the palm of Enshin, also shrouded in an energy cloud. For some time the confrontation lasts, but the guy, nevertheless, is forced to retreat. He stands, taking his breath and pressing his palm overwhelmed to the body. Bai Mei says, commendably. Enshin asks, does she practice Chungan? The girl confirms his hunch. She says that the swordsman who studies Magvanig cannot rely on his sword. Numerous fighting techniques, such as Chungan, are extremely effective. Bai Mei explains, even if the enemy knows how to strengthen the body of Qi, she will not allow this protection to destroy. She warns that Chungan's effectiveness depends on the ability to properly put internal energy in a blow. Enshin asks, can he share his observations of a beginner? The girl permits. The guy says that he is quite sensitive to Qi since childhood, so he noticed a small problem in her control. The girl is amazed she did not expect to hear this from him. Bai Mei asks, is he really able to see the movement of Qi? Enshin answers, not quite, and the girl is interested. Then how does he know about the problems of control? The guy explains that he does not see the course of Qi inside the body. He only watches the stream when he goes outside with her energy. Bai Mei is even hard to believe. She tells the guy that such a sense of perception is given only to masters of purple rank. The master of purple rank is the pinnacle of the hierarchy of the skill of martial arts in the desert fortress. First there is white, then blue, black, and only purple. Although she is surprised, she still allows the guy to say further. She will take note of his observation. Enshin explains to the girl. If you look closely at her palms, it seems to him that she is more suitable for investing Qi than any other. The guy examines his palm, which he tried to fulfill this technique. Remembering their sparring, he says that the very nature of its internal energy seems more suitable for the technician of close combat. If you put more Qi in it, then it will become much more powerful, Enshin believes. The girl says, in his opinion, in front of him is some kind of dumbass who does not know how to distribute internal energy. She asks, does he really think that she does not invest enough Qi? Enshin asks the girl forgiveness for saying excess and upset her. Bai Mei replies that she should apologize and thanks him. Waving goodbye to her hand, the girl leaves. For some time dissatisfied with himself, looking for a while, looking after her. The girl's voice is heard in the house. She turns to Magin, saying that, it seems, Enshin revealed her combat skills. She asks the man sitting at the table. He, by chance, did not mention something about the origin of her skills in his presence? He answers, what kind of nonsense? Does she really think that he would tell him something so important? Bai Mei thinks, then how does he know? Ma Jin says, maybe the guy has seen the techniques that they stubbornly develop from the lost art of the divine demon? The girl agrees, it looks like that. Rising from the chair and leaning his hands on the table, the man says, Hintire is special. Even if the whole world to get around, it will be difficult to find a similar talent. Walking around the room, Ma Jin says that such a person appears only once in a generation. He is sure that even those whose skill is undeniable, they will confirm this. The girl asks, he really believes that the guy is really at such a level? The man answers in the affirmative. He is sure that Enshin is undoubtedly the future elite in the hierarchy. He adds, no matter what others think about him. But you should not be dismissed from his words, as from the advice of a newcomer. Bai Mei clarifies. He wants to say that she should discuss the art of a divine demon with a guy. The man answers in the affirmative. He says that her self-learning has its limits, and he does not have time. In such conditions, the tips of Enshin are very appropriate. Majin is sure that the guy has the qualities of a great master. He adapts everything that he studies for himself. The girl is trying to object, but the man, without listening to her, continues to speak. He believes that the only problem lies in the character of the guy. Taking a scroll in his hands, he reports that a small task was just acted here. He orders the girl to go to watch how the guy copes with the circumstances of life and death with his comrades to understand whether he really deserves confidence. Ma Jin hands a scroll to the girl. He believes that the guy will need 5 years, and after this period Yen-shin will surely lead Magvanig. At dawn, Yun-shin, Chan-men, Bai Mei and Han Von-chan on horseback racing to complete the task. The girl, holding the bridle with a strong hand, is immersed in thought. She does not get out of her head, Ma-gin. Go and look at the gut of your future leader. By night, travelers arrive at the Zinpin district post station. Sleeping from the horse, Han Von sighs heavily, holding his hand at the place a little lower than his back, and complains about what he spent 10 days in the saddle. Yun-shin silently listens to the complaints of the friend. He thinks about the order that they have to fulfill. Someone from the cult of Bloody Flame terrifies the village, regularly killing cattle and destroying crops. The teacher, who gathered them in his office on the eve of departure from the desert fortress, said that this was happening in the Xinpin district in the south of Shaanxi. He said that in Shaanxi there are groups that could deal with this themselves, but recently there was an incident with the abduction of the elixirs of the Huashan sect. Han Wanchan asked, "Were the elixirs of the Huashan sect stolen?" He asks the teacher only not to say that the stolen pills are Jasadan, supposedly comparable to the Great Revival of Shaolin. The man answered, "It looks like that. The scale of this mission requires the mobilization of the entire Shaanxi combat community, and they do not have enough resources." Ma Jin adds, "So they requested their help. He ordered them to do this business." Shin is trying to recall everything that he knows about the clan of the Bloody Flame. From his thoughts, someone's voice leads him. He hears someone says that they sent a request so many time ago, and the detachment arrived only now. Looking around, he sees two men. Outwardly, they are the exact opposite of each other. Anyone who runs ahead is quite voluminous in the waist, his companion, peering out from behind his back, thin. The first says that he always respected the desert fortress, like the sword of the empire. But what kind of frivolous attitude is this in the end? Shin, with a degree of bewilderment, considers men. Those approached their group and stopped in front of them. More complete of them grumbles that one of the youths arrived. He is interested. Will they cope with their offender? And he answers himself that he is not sure of this. Shin asks the satellites, "What does this need from them?" A man indignantly asks for this. Chanmen says that many of the local officials are ignorant. In such a wilderness, they probably never saw a real master of martial arts. Therefore, some equate the swordsmen in the service of the empire with their personal cleaners. The man angrily asks, "How does he laugh?" He believes that this is unheard of insolence. Shin asks, "Should he seal his acupuncture point of speech?" Chanmen says, "You can." He believes that the less chatter, the more time for business. The man is indignant again. What kind of nonsense? But the touch of the guy's fingers to his neck forces him to silent. Removing his hand, Yanshin looks at him testfully. He says that his indignation worries them little. They leave, leaving the thin servant to trouble on the gift of the speech of the speech. Han Wanchan asks Yanshin, "Have he really mastered acupuncture techniques?" He answers in the affirmative. The young man says that he thinks that contacting a you to the guy is somehow not very good. He claims that from that moment he will call him the young Master Young. The guy answers, how he wishes. At the same time, Shin calls a friend, the divine guardian of the desert fortress. A proud smile blooms on the young man's face, and he even spreads his shoulders. Suddenly, the hand of Chan Mina lies on the shoulder of Yunshin. Having acquired a guy, he asks, "Does that unwritten law on non-interference know? The government and the world of martial arts do not interfere in each other's affairs." He says that they, unlike many other fighters, can afford a little more in communicating with officials, as they act on behalf of the ruling family. It is nice to put in place such people who are not shining with the mind who think that they can report them. Chanmen adds, "This is the privilege of a fighter of the desert fortress." Bai Miley intervenes in a conversation, saying that he does not overdo it. Although everyone agrees that he came out great with his official, the attention of Han Wanchan is attracting something. He indicates to his companions that something is happening in the village. Although twilight have already come, but in the field on the outskirts and however, people are visible. The peasant, armed with pitchfork, shows off the insults of a red-haired big man, holding a bloodied sword in one hand and in the other child. A little raising a crying baby, the man tells him to shut up. In a cry, he wides his mouth wide in which sharp fangs are visible. Shin understands that this is the cultist of a bloody flame, and the first breaks down. A moment later, Chan Men is ahead of Shin. The guy admires his speed. He understands that this is the technique of moving the Menchozenbi clan. Another moment and he is overtaken by Bai Malin. Han Wanchan also leaves him behind. The guy mentally shouts, looking into the back to his comrades. Trying to catch up with them, he thinks that all this time he did not particularly train in the techniques of movement. In the training room, he was not a little before that. The peasant is alarmed by the state of a man who touched the cult of the cultist. The red-haired giant clings his teeth. He is amused by what is happening. A man armed with a stick requires him to let the child go. A woman standing at a distance, in horror, clamps her mouth with her hands. The big man turns to the baby, demanding that he fall silent. He yells so because he is full of life? For him, an attack by Chan Mena was a surprise. He manages to substitute his blade under the young man who fell on him. The cultist of the bloody flame becomes in a combat rack. Suddenly, he realizes that his second hand is already empty. Chon Men stands opposite him, clutching a child to him. Seeing the sign of the difference on his shoulder, the big man understands that he was a warrior from the desert fortress. He notices the blue of the young man's clothes. The man sees the approach of Bai Malin. It is enveloped in a fiery aura. He squeezes the sword harder, and then rushes upward, leaving the opponents far behind. He rises incredibly high in the sky. Bai Malin and Chon Men, who presses the rescued child to him, look after him in surprise, perplexing. Who is this guy? The girl says that, judging by the speed, the cultist spends vitality in order to use such a technique of movement as expected from the sect of Bloody Flame. They are joined by the breathless Han Von Chan, and then Yun Shin. Chon Men gives the child to his mother. The girl hides Han Wan Chana. She says that general combat skills correspond to its white level, but he lacks endurance. She advises him to work on it. The young man agrees with her opinion. The cue of Enshin comes, and he lowers his head. Bai Malin says his fundamental skills are surprisingly well developed. This level of skill can rarely be found even among 8 clans. She continues, looking at how he moves without the use of techniques. We can say with confidence that no one in the group of Ma Guanig will be able to catch up with him. The girl adds, even a freezer, pointing to the young man. He answers, and okay, who is generally worried about someone else's speed. When they return to the post station, Chon Men decides to contact En Shine. The young man asks, to teach a guy of his movement techniques? En Shin is amazed at his proposal. He cannot believe in the generosity of the young man. He explains that the movement technique is not considered the full martial art of their clan. He offers just a small walking lesson. He says that most inhabitants are too tough, but he is sure that the guy can. En Shin is glad that he had a chance to learn the technique of moving the Men clan. The young man says that he does not particularly rejoice. Nobody in the sect Ma Guanig was able to master this. He adds that he somehow taught this to those who wanted to learn, but no one achieved success. The girl smiles a little, listening to him. The young man demonstrates the movement technique. He says that although this is called technology, there is no system in it. En Shin is trying to understand. Does he think energy at the fingertips? Although there was no activation of the flow. Chon Men again repeats that this is just a walking lesson. He calmly walks along the trunk of a huge tree, rising up. The guy is striking in the ease with which he does it. Chon Men, laying his hands behind his back, continues to go on the trunk higher and higher. He stands on a branch and turns to his comrades. En Shin thinks that even the presence of power is not felt. This is still the technique of the Men clan. Qi is not used, but something like energy supports the body. The young man jumps from the tree. Ina Shin, who is watching him, thinks that even this descent is like a falling sheet. Chon Men asks, how? Did he understand? The guy replies that this is some kind of wind created with the help of energy. But he does not have such strength as the Men clan. The young man is amazed. He is interested. The guy realized this, just watching the flow of energy. En Shin in response has a question. Isn't he showing him the equipment for this? The guy says that thanks to him, he realized something. If you disassemble movements based on combat units and select accordingly, Han Wan Chan believes that this is for a long time. He decides to go to look for them a roof over his head. Later, En Shin continues to analyze what he saw. He thinks that the energy of nature is based on the movements of Chon Mena. It seems to him that he understood everything. Chon Men, who suspended the hammock to the tree on which he recently packed, sleeps with his hands behind his head. Some sound makes him wake up and be alert. He was awakened by the creak of the door opened by the door. Chon Men sees the guy go somewhere. En Shin finds a spacious place that seems suitable for him. He repeats the technique that Chon Men demonstrated to him. The young man, watching him from a height, is amazed. Seeing how En Shin is practiced in a new technique for him, Chon Men rings, abnormal. Several sparrows jump on the ground in search of bugs. Not far from them is trained by Han Wan Chan. From a distance, Bai Mei is watching him. The young man says that he does not even believe that about a month has passed since he got here, and his friend has already mastered the art of the Men clan. Chon Men, lounging into a hammock, answers. He will not deny that the guy has the makings of a great master. Even for their clan, this is not the simplest task. The girl recalls the teacher's words, go and look at the gut of her future leader. Han Wan-chan asks, was it worth sending En Shin alone? Bai Mei believes that people are too scared to leave them. In addition, this is a mission of intelligence. She is sure the guy can easily handle it. Mountain terrain. The path to the mountains lies through the forest. which partially covers their slopes. Shin rushes among the trees. He thinks that these lightness, speed, and distribution of forces are incommensurable with its previous capabilities. He continues his way, rejoicing in new skills. The foot of the cliff has a small hut. On a stone near her, the cultist of the bloody flame, leaning over the body of the child, sits. Shin makes its way through the thickets. Later, walking along the path, he thinks that he finally discovered their lair. He plans to return to his comrades and inform them of it. Suddenly, some sounds attract his attention. Seeing the path, he sees how the red-haired healthy man drinks blood, falling to the child's neck. The guy is amazed at what he saw. He cannot leave it so easy. The cultist is passionate about his occupation. His eyes with narrowed pupils and missing iris are more reminiscent of animal. His attention is attracted by a slight noise, and, without looking up from his lesson, he raises his eyes. There is a guy on the edge, putting his hand on the handle of the blade. The big man on whose lips is the blood can be seen, puts the child on the ground, and he asks Shin, who is he? The guy looks at him menacingly. The cultist says that judging by the clothes, he is from a deserted fortress. The big man with his hand wipes blood from the lips, while demonstrating the threatening species of fangs. He goes to Shin, taking out the sword from the scabbard on the go. At the same time, he is interested. The guy came here alone? Scalefangs, he calls him a fool and asks, was he really dared to come here without reinforcement? Loosing, he says that the guy blames himself. But at that moment, Shin, moving at an incredible speed, attacks him in a jump, and with one wave of a sword cuts his head. The enemy did not even have time to understand what happened, how the battle had already ended, and his decapitated body settled on the ground. Disrupting him, Shin goes to the child, hoping that he can still be saved. Before his eyes, the terrible picture faces the young scene in the estate. The whole yard was strewn with the dead bodies of his relatives. Clutching a sword in his hands, he thinks that he will not leave these reptiles alone. The guy tells the child to wait for him. After he finishes here, he will bury him with dignity. Shin carefully examines the hut. Using a special technique, he sees a rather unusual aura that he radiates. The guy resorts to the technique of a quick sword magvanig, attacking the cultists who are in the house. Without much difficulty, he straightens out with the first opponents. Red-haired healthy people cannot believe that someone dared to attack them. Shin, moving at an incredible speed, is dealt with the cultists. He drives his sword into the chest of the next enemy. They stand against each other. The tip of the sword in the chest of a man, and the hilt is in the hands of Shin. The guy says, the cult of the bloody flame, does he live on the principle of the strongest survive? Then to be killed by a stronger opponent for them naturally, isn't it? He resolutely straightens out with a healthy man, and the lifeless body falls at his feet. Suddenly, something attracts the attention of Shin. Seeing through the destroyed wall of the house the entrance to the cave, he goes to her, feeling that even more energy comes from there. Shin is sure that this is not just a shelter of members of the worship of a bloody flame. He believes that he discovered their base, armed men asking him to go from the cave, who dared to attack them. They consider it reckless. The healthy man who walks ahead tells the guy to kill. He promises that he will pay blood, and the warriors walking behind him are rushing to Shin. The guy is preparing for the battle. His opponents vying that he would regret that he was sticking here, and he will have to pay blood for this. Shin, not wanting to waste time for nothing, attacks first, rushing into the most thick opponents. It is simply impossible to keep track of the trajectory of the movement of his sword. After a moment, all his opponents settled at his feet with lifeless bodies. Shin stands at the entrance to the cave, realizing that the battle has not yet been finished. This time from there is the approach of an incredibly powerful aura, and the questioning voice comes. What did he arrange here? Finally, the guy manages to see the silhouette of a man approaching him from the depths of the cave. Shin understands that the ominous energy that he felt all the time did not come from the warriors that he killed. Meanwhile, its owner is already very close. From the darkness of the cave, a man comes to him, completely different from those with whom the guy had to face earlier. His hair is red-black, and then the enemy appears before him. Shin has to look at him from the bottom up. Rumors reached him that when a person reaches a certain level of internal energy, his hair color could visually change. In this case, it can be only one personality, the leader of this cult, the Supreme Master. Distributing his sword, he thinks that in the sect of Bloody Flame he is called a bloody demon with a sword. The man also takes up the handle of the blade, saying that the suffering of the guy will help to quench his thirst for blood. A bloody demon with a sword is a title that the vitality of the sects of the Bloody Flame. Among the civilian population and the lower worlds, They are equated with Death Reapers. Masters, skillful enough to kill them, are very few. Yunshin stands opposite the big man, clutching the sword in his hands. It acts according to the learned rules. Attack the first before the enemy approaches. He recalls that this is how he won the last time, attacking before the enemy managed to react. Enshin decides that it is time to act. The man is interested in everything in the deserted fortress is so arrogant, or what? The guy uses the technique of time. The bloody demon manages to evade, and the blade passes literally a few centimeters from his face. This leads the man as a rage, but Yunshin does not allow him to come to his senses, and attacks him again. He moves at an incredible speed, attacking from all sides, sometimes even seems to be bifurcated, so rapidly his movement. The enemy grinds the fangs in a grin. He is impressed by the skills of Enshin. His words cause anger in a guy. He again recalls the dead faces of his native people. Emotions gives him more strength, and he again rushes on the attack. Their swords are crossed, and the grin slides off the face of a bloody demon. In the head, Enshin beats only one thought. He is no longer the one who was before. The guy intercepts the enemy's hand in which he squeezes the sword. He acts on him with his own energy, and the big man screams in pain. The bloody demon looks somewhat confused, realizing what Enshin is capable of. His hand is covered by a blood-red aura, and he, showering the guy with insults, tries to hit him. But Yunshin strikes a chopping blow, and part of the hands of the healthy man flies to the side. The bloody demon, looking at the terrifying wound, screams wildly. In his cry, hellish pain and anger and bewilderment are intertwined. The guy, without wasting time, puts his sword in the enemy's chest, piercing his body through. For a moment they freeze. Enshin presses more on the blade, driving it on the very hilt. The big man comes in a bloody cough. Spray of blood fly from his mouth. With difficulty he pronounces, so that he falls by hand, such as a guy. Enshin, looking into his eyes, answers. It seems that he had only caused pain to others earlier, and he himself did not experience it. He pulls out his sword from the enemy's chest, and he slowly settles to the ground at his feet. The guy laughs sadly. He stands in front of the cave. Around him are the bodies of the cultists of Akari Flame. The attention of Enshin is attracted by the pit nearby. He comes closer and sees that the bodies of people are in it. Among them are both children and women. Sunset illuminates mountain peaks. There is a guy's voice, peach flowers and taming your peace. As he could, he buried the peasants killed by the cultists. Han Wan-chan is surprised and does not hide it. Bai Mei-li also experiences strong emotions. Enshin reached their temporary refuge after the night of the night. He appeared in bloodied clothes, carrying a wounded child on the back. The guy's comrades are at the table. Next to it is a servant with a tray. Han Wan-chan exclaims, "Young Master Young!" The guy gives the child a friend, asking him to examine him. The young man, carefully taking the boy, asks, "This baby is not dead?" The girl says that he clearly fought and asks, "What happened?" Only now Yunshin notes that his white suit is all in blood. The guy replies that he is in order. This is not his blood. He says that he found a place where, it seems, a division of the Blood Flame sect has settled. Bai Mei-li replies that this is good. Then the meaning of his words reaches her. And starting, she asks, "He found the monastery of the sect?" Enshin says that there were 8 members of the Blood Flame sect, all those who arranged riots in the villages. And there is one person with black and red hair. The girl understands that we are talking about a bloody demon with a sword. They conclude that there, at the foot of the mountains in the cave, there was definitely one of the groups of the Blood Flame sect. Chan Men is surprised that they settled nearby. He believes that whatever their goals, the sect of Bloody Flame is the enemy of the desert fortress, and they are obliged to eradicate this threat. The girl says that a lightning Audic genius has done a great job, and now he can relax. She and Chan Men will deal with the remaining. Enshin replies that there is no longer any need to go there. He believes that you just need to send a patrol there. The guy adds, "People there will need only to help remove the victims." Han Wan-chan asks, "The guy believes that only a patrol for harvesting corpses is needed?" The girl turns to Enshin. He wants to say that he defeated the bloody demon with a sword and members of the sect alone. The guy answers in the affirmative. Yes, he killed them all. Chan Men clarifies. He alone cleaned the base of the Blood Flame sect division. Enshin replies that the technique of movement that he showed him a lot helped him. Bai Mei-li says that a bloody demon with a sword has an unusual ability to regenerate. She is interested. Did he really deliver the guy problems? Noticing the surprise of Yunshin, she explains, "It is difficult to defeat a bloody demon with a sword, but even those who could often die from a blow to the back, because they did not know about his ability to regenerate. The guy repeats in surprise, the ability to regenerate? He holds forward his hand on which the strands of red-black hair are wound. The guy puts on the table a severed head of a bloody demon, which he pulled out of the shoulder bag. He says that he did not notice such an ability. Everyone looks at his trophy. Enshin thinks that regeneration is dangerous. A smile appears on the lips of Chanmen. He confirms that bloody demons really have the ability to regenerate. Desert Fortress, Night. Ma Jin, in whose office there are Bai Mei and Chanmen, he said. He thought it would be a simple mission, but there was a bloody cultist? He believes that this may be even for the better. Perhaps they managed to prevent many deaths. A man is interested in how did their lightning, moving genius behave in a critical situation. The girl replies that the guy at least. Chanmen thoughtfully scratches the chin. A critical situation? Majin says. If it really was a bloody cult, then they were headed by a strong leader. For a beginner in white clothes, this is dangerous. Did they really deal with everything, so as not to endanger the youngest? The girl replies that they did not even see anything. The lightning Audic genius went into reconnaissance alone and returned with the news about the destruction of the branch of the cult. Ma Jin cannot believe what he heard. He asks, Bai Mei wants to say that he alone prompted everything there, including a bloody demon with a sword. Chanmen confirms the words of the girl, and Shin stands by the window. His friend sits on a bench near him. He says that it is very pleasant to return here. He seems to be attached to this place. The young man turns to the young master. Chan, did not it seem to him that some kind of excitement reigns around? And Shin, who noticed the illuminated streets and crowds of the people, replies, yes, as if the festival was happening. Han Wan-chan says this is not so. He notifies the guy that the former leader of the Divine Sword was returning. The young man says that he came to challenge the place of the elder of the council. He adds, and he also brought with him a boy, who, as they say, adopted in the famous family of Ipkun and Mag. They say he has extraordinary talents. Enshin's hand clenches into a fist. Ipkun Mag is a kind of his mother, his close relatives. But they never visited Sanyan, neither when his mother got married nor after she gave birth to him and left. For them, her marriage is only a reason for reproaches. After all, they almost broke off the ties with the daughter who married a low-born man. Yunshin stands before Magin, sitting at the table. The guy asks, did the teacher call him? The man looks at his student with an appraising look. He is impressed. Even the aura Enshin has changed. Ma Jin thinks, nevertheless, to destroy the branch of the bloody cult alone, it cannot be a simple success. The man rises from the table and, heading for the door, invites Enshin to follow him. He says that the head calls him to himself. The guy recalls that only meeting with the head of the desert fortress. Walking after the man along the corridor, he asks, what? There were times when a newcomer in white clothes was repeatedly summoned for a year. Majin answers briefly, never. They leave the building, and in the yard they are respectfully welcomed by students. They hear the guys talk. A lightning Audic genius from Magwanig, the one who defeated a bloody demon with a sword. Voices come to them. I can't even believe, is he really killed him? The guy looks younger than they thought. Majin tells the student, it is not surprising that they pay attention to him. If he alone destroyed the branch of the bloody cult, it means that he has already reached the level of the master of the desert fortress. They are approaching the highest building, where the guy had a chance to visit. Pupils see their eyes. Enshin thinks that his perception of time is different from them. He has no time to rejoice at the successes. If he wants to survive, then he needs to achieve the strength of the leader of the detachment of the Divine Sword before he turns 20. He still has to go from white to blue, then to black clothes, like Magin. And finally, to defeat the 17 steps of Magvanig in order to reach the purple rank of the leader of the detachment of the Divine Sword. They stand at the door, near which he was not so long ago. Ma Jin knocks on the door, because of which words come to them, it seems that you have a grandson. Enshin hears the answer. That is a child of lower blood, nothing for their kind. Then the person says an unfamiliar to him. He does not disgrace the IPKHKHANMAG, and that is good. He hears the man invisible to him that this child is a real heir. Although he is from a side branch, his talent is exceptional. Ma Jin opens the door and they enter the hall. The guy follows his teacher on a long passage. They appear before the head sitting on a sofa created by the roots of a tree. Next to her stands a venerable old man and a young man. Ma Jin welcomes the head of the desert fortress, and Shin is also inclined in a traditional bow. The guy understands who the old man is. This is the former leader of the detachment of the Divine Sword, a master of purple rank, surpassing even Ma Jin. The old man asks him, So he is that glorified lightning, Audic genius from ManhwaCapped. He seems to say that his name is Ma Yonchok, the one who once headed the detachment of the divine sword. He says that his grandson, while he points to the young man standing next to him, wanted to compete with the gifted peer, so he turned to the head, and Shin answers, "It's nice to meet." He thinks it means that the old man did not recognize him. Ma Yonchok says that he heard fresh rumors about him. He adds that having met him personally, he can say with confidence that they do not even agree. The old man believes that he is really strong. He has an incredible level for his age. The guy welcomes Ma Yonjoka. He seems saying that his name Jung-un Shin. The old man asks, "What does that mean?" For several moments, silence reigns in the hall. If his surname Young then he is the same. The old man is aware of the situation. He is amazed to the core. The guy replies that they are found for the first time. Ma-jin looks at him with some surprise. He asks, "That means he is his sister's son?" And Shin is surprised no less than him. Silence reigns in the hall again. The guy understands that Ma-jin and his mother are brother and sister. He turns to the teacher. Does he get his uncle? He asks for forgiveness, because it is not familiar with the family on the maternal line. The guy adds, even in the fallen main genus he is considered an outcast. Ma-jin, like Ma Yonchuk, is amazed at the family of Young Pot. The man asks, he wants to say that the Young family was destroyed? And Shin thinks, judging by their reaction, for them this is really news. The old man asks, how did this happen? He turns to the head of the desert fortress. Ma Yonchuk asks for permission to talk with the guy alone, and Shin tells the old man that he is an outsider for him. Is this not so? As a warrior of the desert fortress, he respects the achievements of his grandfather on the maternal side. But any personal conversations for him are burdensome. And Shin hears how they turn to him, calling the warrior Magvanig. The head says that his spirit is impressive. Suddenly an exclamation of the young man is heard. Unacceptable. He says that he cannot accept it. How can someone like this guy be a direct descendant of his grandfather? He asks the old man, what kind of disrespect for the previous leader of the detachment of the divine sword? And Shin, looking at him, thinks, but how does he behave in the presence of the leader of the desert fortress? He answers the young man that he does not need his approval. Pointing to the insignia on his shoulder, Ian Shin adds, he is not a member of the Ipakranmag clan. The guy claims to be directly subject to the group of Magvanig. The young man becomes furious. What an audacity. He asks for permission to fight with Ian Shin. He wants to prove that he is not worthy to be in the blood kinship with them. The guy replies that this is nonsense. He does not mind fighting if he wants to check the skills. However, he believes that he is not obliged to prove his value to him or his family. The young man from anger cannot even express his thoughts coherently, and Shin notices combat gloves on his belt. He understands that the young man is trained in close combat techniques characteristic of IPKHKHANMAG. A voice is heard, quite a dispute. The head of the desert fortress says that friendship often boils in battle. And this is a boy, she believes, promising talent. She is sure that the best way to resolve their conflict will be the battle. The woman offers those present to bet, if they of course wish. The chapter turns to a lightning, bearing genius. She understands that he has little benefit from this. As a sign of respect for her old friend, she will fulfill his request regardless of the result. And Shin clarifies. And if this is the very request? It implies the fruit of the world tree. But the woman, having dropped her eyes, replies that this is not possible, at least for now. She says that even if her late friend personally asked, her answer would be the same. The merits of the leader of the divine sword cannot be compensated in another way. But in return, she offers him to teach one of her branded techniques. And Shin is impressed. The leader of the desert fortress, which is called the best under the sky, offers to teach him. The young man is no less enthusiasm than En Shin, a reception from the mistress herself. The guy thinks that he himself is more interested in combat techniques than the opportunity to defend the honor of the ancestors. He is surprised that the mother's family chose such a person by the heir. The guy replies that he agrees. They go to the site where the young man dresses his gloves. The head of the desert fortress says that they start. Here their battle will not disturb. The enemy Ian Shin is kneading before the fight. Ma Yonchuk and Ma-jin prepared to watch sparring. At the moment, Ian Shin has enough belonging to Magvanig, so he is not interested in the connection with the Ipkranmag clan. He gestures the enemy with a gesture to start a duel. He decides to allow him to attack the first. Fury distorts the guy's face when he rushes forward. He brings a hand covered with a strong aura for a blow. En Shin evades, and he inertia takes a few more steps forward. The guy is a little puzzled. He thinks the young man took some rare pill. He feels that the enemy's energy is much superior to him. The opponent is preparing to strike. Shin uses the technique of time. He masterfully evades enemy attacks. But the young man nevertheless manages to strike a blow that Shin barely manages to block. He thinks, then this is what real family martial arts look like? Despite the apparent softness, these are very sophisticated techniques of a noble school. The young man asks, why does he not get the sword? Exploring the next attack, Shin answers, because of their technology. The enemy's face distorts the mask of anger. He attacks a guy again and again who easily avoids his blows. But the enemy is persistent. Shin says that he came up with something that can be opposed by their technique. He believes that 10 movements will be enough for this. Ma Yonchok cannot believe that the guy was going to win for 10 movements. He thinks that this is not even a genius. Majin says that Shin did not mean it. He explains that the guy is going to create equipment in 10 movements, and this will be a new combat reception. Shin assures that he came up with something that can be opposed by the opponent's technique. 10 movements will be enough for this. The enemy replies that, in this case, he will lay out in full. Around its gloves, there is an energy vortex. The young man sets up resolutely. His aura looks impressive. He decides to use the Hafi fist technique, and Shin, measuring him, thinks, good. He likes that he did not succumb to anger, but instead he completely concentrated. Moreover, the guy feels the waves of true energy emanating from him. He believes that it cannot be that the purple master who once ruled the world teach him not serious. Shin turns to the enemy. Although he mentioned the fist technique, he does not mind if the technique of his palms is involved. The guy says that there is no need to list his techniques, let him simply give it to the maximum. He has something to show? The young man is attacking Shin. He applies new equipment. Their fists, covered by energy flows, are found. The ward of Ma Yonjoka delights the monstrous power of the guy. Ma Jin, watching the battle, thinks that the lightning Otic genius did not sank at all in skills during the trip, even became even better. Shin responds to the enemy with a vengeance. From his blow, the young man grabs his breath. Ma Jin is amazed. Is the guy really inspired by the Kafi-fisted technique just seen? Ma Yonchok also does not take his eyes off their confrontation. The young man collects all his strength, trying to deliver a decisive blow. Shin makes him, asking him to show him more. He can. The young man of evil, he demands that the opponent not provoke him. He strikes a powerful blow, putting all his skills into it. But Shin contrasts him with his triple blow. His attack makes the young man ride. Shin does not reduce the pressure, continuing to direct the energy concentrated in the palms to the enemy. The young man is forced to retreat under his pressure. The guy uses the technique of palms, thinking that it will be really interesting. The young man calls Yenshina a village manor, but the guy does not fall to the verbal skirmish. Instead of an answer, it increases the power of the blow 4 times. Ma Yonjoka is impressive of his skill. The enemy Shin, unable to resist his feet, kneels. He enters the cough and presses his hand to his chest, where Shin struck. The guy stands nearby, looking down at him from top to bottom, and expecting whether the enemy can continue the battle. For some time, silence reigns on the site. Everyone froze in anticipation. Ma Jin thinks, the longer the combination, the stronger the fist energy becomes. The Ma Yonchok standing nearby does not hide surprise. He cannot believe that Shin was able to create new martial art in such a short period. The guy, looking at his palms, rejoices that he finally created worthy martial art. The head of the desert fortress says that she became a witness to an amazing sight. She admired what she managed to see. Shin asks for forgiveness and expresses the hope that he did not disappoint her. The head says that he should not be afraid of it. She is not disappointed. The woman asks, he already decided how to call this fist technique? The guy replies that he called her an unfading radiance. The head of the desert fortress says, a combat style that endlessly radiates radiance. She considers this name suitable. Ma Jin says the guy did a great job. He congratulates Shin because he created outstanding martial art. The guy replies that while he had only laid the foundations, he believes that this technique has yet to be honed. He so far uses it in the traditional style of Magvaneg. Ma Jin says, even if so, among the representatives of the white rank, few can withstand such a blow. He tries not to be surprised, but the speed of progress in Shin leaves him no chance. The guy believes that he needs to become even faster. Ma Yonchok, with sadness in his eyes, turns to Enshine. He asks, how can he earn his forgiveness? The guy, and all standing nearby, cannot hide surprise when he heard these words. The retired leader of the detachment of the divine sword of the desert fortress is considered a heavenly deity that has power over the life and death of most people. Shin cannot believe that such a person tends his head in front of him. He looks in surprise at Ma Yonjoka standing in front of him, and then the guy, having previously apologized, tells the old man that this gesture on his part is extremely burdensome. He explains that it is impossible to easily correct the mistakes of the past. For him, the maternal relatives are no different from outsiders. He claims that now his family is Magvanig. Ma Yonchok replies that communication can always be built again. The guy says he is too busy with his training. He adds that he defeated his grandson in a duel, which he himself initiated. Shin asks the old man to respect his desire of the warrior. The head of the desert fortress says, since the lightning Audic genius won, this is a completely reasonable requirement. She recalls her promise to teach a guy one of his techniques and invites him to come at a convenient time for him. She believes that he can also require another thing from the desert fortress. Shin replies that he will pass through the teachers, the time at which it will be convenient for him to come. Ma Jin is a little surprised. He and Ironia thinks that the guy appointed him to his personal ambassador. They go down the stairs. Yunshin goes ahead, the man follows him. Ma Jin hauls the guy and he stops. He says that there is a task that can help the guy achieve his goal. City of Xian. Shin, along with friends, follows Ma Jin on a crowded street. The guy recalls the conversation with the teacher, which happened the day before. The man told him about Jasudan. He said that this is a rare pill of the Skasan sect, which is considered a treasure of the world of martial arts. The Skasan sect lost her. And since then, many other sects and masters of martial arts are looking for this treasure. Now Shin understands why the commotion arose among the warriors. Ma Jin said their mission is accompanied by representatives of the Skasan sect in search of Pilyuli Jasodan. In words, these are just a joint search, but in fact it is a need not to scatter lives in vain. Shin understands that since there will be many skirmishes during the mission, he will have the opportunity to experience his sword in a real battle. The teacher confirms, it will be so. He is sure that this mission will probably be useful to him. He will be able to freely fight with numerous masters. Ma Jin believes that, given his innate talent, he will achieve great success than continuing ordinary training. Hanwoon Chan, who was walking behind the guy, says, insulting. He says that the desert fortress cannot openly support the Slassen sect, so they cannot be worn by the usual combat robes. They are met by a detachment of young warriors, headed by a man, whose clothes and age indicate that he is their mentor. He says that they were waiting for the arrival of masters of the desert fortress. Han Wan-chan, seeing on their clothes distinctive signs, understands that the representatives of the Slassen sect before them. The heads of groups welcome each other. The man pronounces, Ma Gvanig. Ma Jin answers, Chongju Ginin. This is the name of the leader of the Masters of the Sword of the Flowering Plum. It is known as an unsurpassed great master. Even the Ma Jin does not reach his level, which wear black clothes, but they make an impression about the same. A man also welcomes the Ilian sword and a blue-eyed demon, as Chon Men is calling. He says, familiar faces, which means there is no point in the exchange of courtesies. The past skirmish placed everything in places without words. Shin first hears the nickname Chon Mena. He is curious at the young man with curiosity. He only smiles in response. Looking at Shin, Chongju Ginin says that the ratio of the desert fortress to the matter leaves much to be desired. Then he adds, even a completely green student was taken for a mission. The guy is surprised. He recognized a student of the desert fortress in him, despite the fact that there are no official clothes on him. Ma Jin wants to explain something, but the man does not allow him to finish, stopping with a gesture. Chongju Ginin still believes that even a student of the desert fortress, he believes, is not easy. He asks, what about their students exchange blows? He believes that they will at least have a little fun along the way. Ma Jin understands that he wants to experience Shin. Since the leaders of the groups did not fit in a joint mission, Chongju Jinin decided to recoup through young people, who determines future relationships. Yunshin thinks that the teacher again decided to hide him. The student Chongju Jinin asks, is there enough 5 seconds? The man answers, this is a demonstrative battle, so let him fight with all his might. The young man answers mockingly, as if a guy can show him something. He heard that martial art of Ma Gvanig is based on sensory perception directly in battle. Yunshin comes out to meet the enemy. He is interested in what the teachings of the Skasan sect are. He asks the young man, is he sure that he will have enough 5 seconds? He is interested in response. Did he really offend him? He apologizes, saying that he did not want this. It was just that in the morning training it was like that, and he did not notice how his words were called. The young man seems to, his name is Yu Hyun from the Skasan sect. Han Wan-chan impressed. In front of them is the hidden dragon of Skasan. He heard about this outstanding student of the leader of the sect Slasan. Bai Miley adds, the young man was nicknamed the next generation of the sect. There are rumors that he had already begun to master the art of purple fog. Han Wan-chan considers it unfair that such a monster went out against Yen Shin. Meanwhile, the guy seems to be an opponent, calling his name, Young Un Shin. Opponents stand against each other. The rest formed a ring around them. Yu Hyun is rapidly attacking En Shin. His aura is so strong that he literally blinds the guy. He understands that this is the Palmar technique of falling petals. It is considered quite variable. En Shin uses the technique of the unfading radiance of the first technique, Spiral. Yu Hyun is surprised that the guy is so rapidly approaching him. He asks the question, what is this force? Meanwhile, En Shin resorts to the second technique of his new technique, the Wall. The enemy is trying to use the Palmar technique of falling petals. This is enough to inspire En Shin to the third reception of an unbroken radiance. He asks the young man to hold out as long as possible. He needs at least 10 blows. The enemy is trying to resist, but the guy's attack throws him far back. He falls to the ground and does not even try to get up. Yun Shin freezes in anticipation. Looking at his hands, he thinks that this attack pulls on a third reception. He decides to name the third reception of an unfading radiance, a palmous bud. He looks around the audience, crowding around. One of the guys asks, what was it? For 3 attacks? How could the talent from Shan lose so quickly? Cleaned Chongju Ginin asks, who is this boy? He tells you to choose Yu Hen. One of the guys fulfills the assignment and puts the young man on the shoulder. Chongju Ginin says that in the desert fortress, it seems, the dragon has been raised. He admits that their grip over the world of martial arts becomes tougher. Majin asks not to exaggerate him. He assures that the desert fortress will still not touch the innocent. Chongju Ginin grins as an unchanged excuse. He turns to the guy. He said that his name is Young Yun Shin. The man says that the guy demonstrated outstanding martial art. He believes that it is somewhat similar to the technique of falling petals, but he does not think that someone could teach him the technician's shasan. He did not even imagine that similar techniques existed. Chongju Ginin expresses the hope that this motivates even the lazy. Meanwhile, Yu Hyun gradually comes to his senses. The man says, if the day comes when the circumstances forced him to leave the desert fortress, then let him know that Skasan will accept him as an honorary guest. Majin hits him. He believes that the man is already crossing the line. He admits that his greed clouded his mind. He says that it was unworthy behavior. He just cannot resist when someone appears in front of him with such a shining talent. Majin looks a little concerned. His students are unhappy with what is happening. En Shin thinks that he used almost all the energy that he had for the last trick. The unfading radiance consumes the maximum forces for each movement, but the volume of internal energy consumed is too large. So far, in a real battle, it is better to rely on the sword, he decides. A little later, when they were already in the hotel, senior students tell the guy that he would quickly open his meridian Jundan. Chan Men believes, if he lacks internal energy, then you can at least increase endurance. En Shin does not understand what they are talking about. The girl notices that he is puzzled. She explains, even Meridian Shandan, responsible for spiritual energy in her head, does not give such an advantage. He will strengthen his inner energy. The guy asks for, will strengthen internal energy? The girl says, this means that the effectiveness will increase. She is interested. Did he hear legends about the masters who fight tirelessly for 7 days and nights? He responds in the affirmative. Bai Mei explains, they all trained Meridian Jundan. The flow of their internal energy has become stable, allowing you to use powerful techniques repeatedly. Even after a powerful emission, the flow of energy is not interrupted. En Shin asks Chon Mena. For this reason he was able to survive against Namhun, Chil Goma? The guy is interested. How to open this meridian? The girl replies. If you train Meridian Siadan for a long time, he will open himself. You just need to concentrate the circulation of energy in the upper body. En Shin, turning to her, as an older sister, asks, is there a faster way? Bai Mei is surprised. But she is pleased that En Shin called her that. A loud exclamation attracts the attention of men sitting at a neighboring table. Ma Gin, along with the students, is sitting at a large table. He says that the culprit is Tight. He explains that this is a notorious thief in the northern regions of Yangtze. The man says that this is the same person who stole a secret scroll of martial arts. Han Wan-chan asks Bai Mei sitting nearby, did they stole a scroll of martial arts? The girl answers, it just happened. Ma Jin continues to say, from that moment they must eradicate in Shangxi all the signs of sects that are connected with Tight. Han Wan-chan asks, what about the Huashan sect? The man replies to him that while they will make a hype, they will try to get information inside the sects. and Shin asks the question, is it worth destroying signs of combat sects? Chanmen replies that he does not know the robberies well. He says that these people are organizing requisitions allegedly for protection, without even thinking of getting the approval of the imperial family. From the point of view of the empire, the difference between righteous sects and robberies is simple. The first peasants donate voluntarily, while the latter rob threatening weapons. Majin explains that these are parasites that destroy the country. But even if they are killed, new groups of parasites will appear, so most often they turn a blind eye to this. But the grounds are not particularly needed to deal with them. Shin asks, how many sects do they take on the site? Majin answers, at first 5, he takes 2. The guy asks the question, can he go alone? The man is interested in. He can't wait to become famous. He believes that it is too risky. The guy is sure he will cope. The teacher says that fighting alone against the sect is a completely different level of skills. When everything is attacked in a blade, there are too many variables that need to be taken into account. This cannot be compared with a duel one-on-one. Shin insists. He needs such an experience. Majin still agrees. He offers here and now distribute tasks. He tells the guy that his goal is the sect Tanlin in the district of Yanhei, Xi'an. Then he adds, as far as he knows, these are real discharge. They say they do not disdain even the abduction of women. The guy asks, what is the task? Majin answers, the complete destruction of the sect. Let him complete the task and immediately return. Shin, accompanied by the conductor, goes to the forest path. The man asks, will he really go alone? Maybe it is worth reconsider this decision. The Tanlin sect is difficult people. He says that they are trained in martial arts. Even one of them is able to paralyze the movement on Yanhei streets. Shin asks, can he tell more about the Tanlin sect? He says that they settled in Yanhei 3 years ago, capturing the streets. They abduct women dozens, making slaves from them. Their crimes have long been heard, but it seems that they bribed a local official. The guy is interested. What about their combat style? The satellite answers. He heard that they use different types of weapons. While they continue their way, the man says that he saw their battles a couple of times from afar. They own swords, spears, and strangely curved blades, and they are so fast that it is difficult to track them up. With one blow of the sword, they can be headed by 2 people at the same time. Shin sums up what is heard, an unsystematic way of fighting a battle on one experience. The guy asks the question, how many captives do they already have, and what is the local administration? The man replies that the magistrate in conspiracy with the sect Tanlin, so there is no one to help. District Yanhei. Having mixed with the crowd, Shin watches armed men guarding their bound women. Seeing how they are mocking the captives, he thinks that these thugs precisely deserve their reputation. Going to them, the guy asks for permission to clarify. Do they really act with the permission of the magistrate? He asks, these bound people are definitely criminals? One of the men turns a knife in their hands, and then, without hesitation, he throws him into the tire. But the guy is difficult to take by surprise. With one lightning-fast movement, he catches his knife blade with his fingers. Shin applies the technique of the rapid blade Magvanig and sends it back. The knife falls exactly in the forehead to its master. His friends are amazed to observe what is happening. One of them says that he is clearly not simple, and asks where he studied martial arts. He believes that his stand with a dagger was strange, and is interested. The guy trained correctly? The second man, taking up the sword, adds, still fast. He asks, whose martial art that he had just demonstrated? Obstructing the blade, Shin replies that this is just a mixture of random techniques. The man believes that he has a solid sword. He plans to present it to the head of their sect, but he does not even have time to finish the phrases, as the blade of Shin cuts it almost in 2. While the thugs come to their senses, Shin uses the technique of the rapid blade of Magwanig. In the blink of an eye, he straightens out with all opponents who did not even have time to repulse him. He stands with a sword in his hands in front of the captives, and behind him are the bodies of members of the Tanlin sect. People who have observed what was happening from a distance are immediately rushing to free women. They all crowding around the guy thank him. Shin asks, where is the Tanlin sect based? A man accompanying him indicates a large mansion. Shin goes to the locked gates. Without special ceremonies, he hit the sample with his foot. The gates swing off with a roar, and it passes inside. In the courtyard, he is met by somewhat stunned by such a loud appearance of the guy, members of the Tanlin sect. On the steps leading to the mansion stands the leader of the sect, who is no less surprised by such an unceremonious invasion. He asks, did this young man beat their students? Shin, looking at the man, thinks that he even dared to put on robes with dragons, which only the emperor can wear. This is treason. Meanwhile, the man goes to the guy, wanting to deal with him on his own. He tells him not to intervene. Getting to the handle of the blade, the leader of the sect, Tanlin, says that he had not taken out the sword from the scabbard for a long time. He asks Shin. He likes to play in the hero? How did he dare to appear before their sect? The guy is interested in response. What is his name? The man replies, why does the person who will die soon to know his name? Shin says that you always need to know who you are dealing with, then to declare your victory. The leader of the sect, laughing at his words, is rapidly attacking the guy. Shin notes that the enemy's speed is excellent. He now sees the trajectory of the sword. He asks the question, is it because he became stronger? The guy easily beats off the man's blow. Having assessed the strength of the enemy, which he could not even recognize, the leader changes his opinion. Its minions are already worth the worst with naked blades in their hands. The man tells them to attack the guy. Armed people hurry from all sides to Shine. He easily evades the sword, whistling very close to his face. The guy retorts the blow of one of the opponents. Then he decides to intercept their initiative and attacks himself. His movements are so fast that it is impossible to keep track of them. A moment. Several bodies are already lying at the feet of the guy. He again easily avoids the blow with the sword. Shin understands that he sees them all, the attacks, evasions, predicts their movements, and with ease overcomes everything. He quickly moves forward, dealing with opponents. A moment, and a bald, healthy man falls like a guy's knitted, struggled with a sword. Prooping under the blade that had carried over him, he stubbornly moves to his goal, the leader of the sect. Shin makes an incredible jump, and his opponents are left behind, confusedly clapping his eyes and perplexed. Where did the guy go? In the meantime, he already appeared in front of a man leading this gang of thugs. He is impressed with his power. Behind the guy stretches a train from the dead bodies of his minions. The leader of the sect, looking at the courtyard, confusedly asks, what is it? Shin, looking gloomily at the man, thinks, in the battle with the group, you just need to affirm your superiority. He imagines that the hand squeezing the sword is a fist. The guy uses the second form, separation. He rushes to the confused leader of the Tanlin sect. Having waved his sword, he in a jump strikes a crushing blow. A man who did not even have time to raise his blade falls to his feet. The sword of Shin cuts him in two, not even allowing to finish the phrase that has begun. The guy stands over a defeated enemy. Then he, without turning, begins to speak to the surviving people. He notifies them, which today will destroy the sign of the Tanlin sect. Men, stunned by what happened, do not understand what is at stake. One of them screams to call a bloody master. Shin, turning his head in his direction, clarifies. He talks about a bloody demon with a sword? So, behind their deeds there is a sect of bloody flame? Handing through his hand, the guy grabs a screaming man by the throat. He requires an answer to his questions. The man confirms his guess and reports that he is sleeping in the extension. Shin thinks, if it is really a bloody demon with a sword, then he simply could not help but feel a fight of this scale. A sword whistled in the air. Someone's strong hand threw him towards the guy. But Shin manages to substitute his blade under it. Someone's shadow flashed in the air above him. The bloody demon lands at his blade that was adjusted into the ground. He picks up his sword in his hands. Shin, who holds the man by the throat, watches his actions. A man with red-black hair says, what a skilled baby. He did not expect him to reflect his sword. The guy understands that he again has a battle with a bloody demon. A little earlier, Ma Jin was interested in Shin. So he already wants blue clothes? Hearing the laconic answer, yes, the man says. He will cut 5 bloody demons, then they will talk. Ma Jin adds, then perhaps he is recognized as a blue warrior, despite such a young age. This conversation flashes in the guy's head when he looks at the bloody demon standing in front of him with a sword. He believes that he was incredibly lucky. With a happy smile, he says, only 3 remains. The enemy frowns. He does not understand what the guy is talking about, but he decides not to go into long explanations and rushes into the attack. The bloody demon descends his blow. The guy thinks that you need to end this battle faster. He understands that this is the center of the Tanlin sect, and the longer the battle lasts, the lower his chances of winning. The enemy, having concentrated power in the palm of his hand, is trying to strike a mortal blow. The guy uses the technique of an unfading radiance, the first welcome spiral. His blow reaches the goal. The bloody demon does not have time to direct his strength to the guy. He is trying to say something. But Shin decisively waved his sword, says that he will not allow him to say the last word. The cut off the head of a bloody demon flies to the side. The decapitated body falls to the guy's feet. The surviving sectarians understand that it's all over. Enshin turns to them and tells them not to move. A little later, the guy listens to the gratitude of the townspeople. A man who presses the girl's body wrapped in a fabric says that now their unfortunate women can rest with the world. Looking at the little body, Yanshin says that Xian should be under the protection of the sect of Zhongnan. He asks, "How did they allow this?" The man replies, "Just Zhongnan is now waging an active war against the Tirana sword sect." Enshin recalls those who attacked their estate. Meanwhile, the man explains to him that all the warriors Zhongnan, patrolling in this area, return to their mountains. Enshin walks along the forest path. He thinks, since their enemy sect is a tyrant sword, Zhongnan was obliged to tighten all the forces available. He believes that the murder of a couple of bloody demons will not change the situation. He recalls his brother and everyone who managed to survive then. Walking through the night forest, he makes a decision. You need to help Zhongnan. Enshin thinks that the grouping of 13 Heavens is a powerful organization that strives for domination in Murim. The desert fortress will be forced to take them sooner or later, and hence the tyrant sword that is part of them. He believes that no one will object against his initiative. He thinks that perhaps he will also be able to take a tough trace. Chongju Ginin, accompanied by a student, often moves around the forest. They go around the guy. The leader of the Masters of the Sword of the Flowering Plum, seeing Enshin, says, "It seems that Tanlin is already over." The guy answers, "It is," and asks to accept his apologies. The man admits that the fighting skills of the guy are impressive. He believes that he became a witness to the birth of the future leader Magvanig, or even the new leader of the detachment of the Divine Sword. Chongju Ginin says that the future of the desert fortress is very transparent. His student Yu Hyun recalls his statement that he will have 5 seconds to cope with the guy. He admits that it was stupid and apologizes. The young man asks, Enshin does not mind starting everything from scratch? He tells the guy that they could discuss a lot about the fighting equipment Shasan. Their clans are not so far from each other. Enshin replies that he will not rise to them to the mountains for this. Yu Hyun is discouraged by his words. The guy immediately adds that he will also not drive him out if he comes, but with empty hands he does not advise him to come. The young man immediately perked up. The hotel in which Ma Jin stopped with his students. Chan Men, seeing Enshin, says that the prayers were justified. Bai Meili, looking around the guy from all sides, notices that there are still wounds on his back. She wants to apply a healing balm and tells the guy to sit on a chair. Ma Jin is interested in the status of the assignment. Enshin removes the bag from the shoulder, and having untied it, demonstrates their head with red-black hair. Someone is interested. Is this really a member of the Bloody Flame sect? Ma Jin answers. And not any, but a bloody demon with a sword. Chan Men is happy for the guy. He says, this proves that his past achievements are not just a successful combination of circumstances. The teacher, meanwhile, is thinking that their paths with a sect of Bloody Flame crossed again. And again, one of the bloody demons, who are considered the owners of unusual techniques. The girl pronounces, this is nonsense. Looking at the guy's trophy, Ma Jin says that the guy's contribution is invaluable. He always surpasses his expectations. He adds, to fulfill the mission, to get important information, and the head of the enemy, all this is highly appreciated in Murim. Enshin says that he needs to tell the teacher something. A man is interested in what exactly. The guy notifies that he wants to go to Zhongnan. The teacher asks Enshin, does he want to climb Mount Zhongnan? He answers in the affirmative. He is worried about the safety of a kinship. Ma Jin says news about them recently. Enshin believes that now it is very dangerous there. They say to the guy that Tiran's sword does not look like those who were still opposed by the guy. This is not just a demonic clan. The girl says that they train randomly, combining both orthodox and unorthodox martial arts. She considers them madmen, obsessed with force, who will not stop any framework. Ma Jin agrees with her words. He tells the guy, the most important thing is that Zhongnan was not asked for help, and in their competence, to fulfill only what they are ordered. Chan Men is interested. Is it really someone like a teacher cannot independently assess the situation and give out a task? Ma Jin lowers his head. He replies that he will be frank. He cannot send the guy there without representing whether he will return. Enshin is surprised by his words. The man explains that in the deserted fortress they have already heard about his potential, so they are worried about his future. Chan Men says, for sure, he is a valuable combat unit, especially considering its origin. Even the Slossen sect promised to accept him as a guest. Enshin is interested in. Cannot the teacher distinguish between the interests of the people from personal? He asks, does Magvanig really not believe in him? Looking at his trophy, he says that he always met expectations. He asks for permission to go to Zhongnan. Men replies that with such achievements he directly leaves them a choice, for which he immediately receives an energy impulse from a girl slightly lower than her back. The teacher agrees with his opinion. He tells the guy that he cannot turn his back so easily from his will, but first he must test him with one of his tricks. Meili exclaims in surprise, "Teacher?" Men is amazed no less than her. The man says only one blow. If the guy can reflect him or avoid him, he will let him go. The girl is trying to object, but Ma Jin interrupts. If Shin wants to reach the heights of martial arts, he should be capable of at least this. The teacher promises Shin another reward if he withstands his blow. The guy agrees with his condition. They go out into the yard. Changguginin went with them. He thanks Magan for allowing him to be present. Changguginin tells Yuhen to remember this moment. This is a rare opportunity to see the technique of leader Magvanig. The young man asks, "Is it not stronger than the technician of the leader of the unit?" The man, watching how Ma Jin and Yun Shin converge, answers, "This is so. But as for situational battles, this person may even be stronger than himself." He says that the nickname of the leader Magvanig is a Hell of Reaper, which means that he is a real beast on the battlefield. Many leaders of prestigious sects fell victims. He always demonstrates overwhelming superiority in battle. Chongju Jinin emphasizes, when you have to face a master of this level, you cannot lose sight of his own movement, because absolutely every blow is deadly. The man adds that, unlike them, the old-fashioned warriors who are fixated on his memorized art, he completely honed his skills for real battle. He is sure that even for an experienced master, such a fight is destructive. Among their peers, there are no people whom this person is unable to hit with his reception. Shin asks the teacher, will he give him time to prepare? He answers, as much as he wants. Ma Jin says that he is going to demonstrate a blow that the white warrior is hard to accept. Therefore, he asks the guy to concentrate to the maximum. Shin looks at him from the sneak-out. The teacher adds that in the deserted fortress, there are less than 30 masters in black clothes, but the guy should not allow this to intimidate him. Shin grunts, demonstrating the lack of fear. Ma Jin tells him to simply show the martial arts that he comprehended. The guy's body covers a powerful aura. He now sees Magan in a completely different way. Shin says he is ready, and invites the teacher to attack. The hand that he brought for a blow and the whole body of a man radiate inner power. This Palmer technique, it seems, can easily break through the protective walls of the castle. But the guy must evade. Although he practiced evasion, he will not be enough in this case. He clearly understands this. Shin concentrates power, thinking what to do. He decides that you need to add a step. Ma Jin is too close, and it seems that the final of the test is already a foregone conclusion. But in some fraction of the second, Shin is behind the teacher of the teacher, which was wasted. The man asks, "What is this technique?" The guy replies that he just took a step. In it, he saw the path to salvation. He says that he will call the technique a wave of shining wings. The teacher lets him go to Zhongnan. Shin, in a blue cloak, accompanied by Han Wan-chan, goes along the forest road. He recalls the moment when he was brought a new detail of clothes, saying, "Throw this." The blue cloak sank to his shoulders. Men, who brought him, Han Von and Meili surrounded him. Yunshin asked, "Why?" To which the girl replied that he would have a white battle robe combined with a blue cloak. She explains this means that he is a genius Novik who was recognized by the Blue Warrior. This status gives the right to command the soldiers of the desert fortress in white clothes. Novichik genius is a term denoting the most outstanding representative of the younger generation. Men said then, "If anyone asks, let him say that the blue-eyed demon recognized him. This will protect him from unnecessary problems." The girl allows the use of her name. He can assume that she also handed him a cloak. Shin walks through the forest, plunged into memories. Han Wan-chan, turning to him, says that he suits him. Looking at the cloak, the guy replies that this is a little unusual. The young man replies that it will pass quickly. Shin thanks the satellite, calling him the divine guardian of the desert fortress. The young man's surprised look. The guy replies that this is not an empty praise. Let him know that. Ahead in the meadow, they notice several warriors guarding the arch of the entrance. Shin understands that these are warriors Zhongnan. Han Von-chan says, "So they really have a conflict with a sect of a tyrant sword?" Judging by the fact that even at the entrance there is enhanced guard. They go to the group of warriors. One of them, noticing the approaching travelers, orders them to stop. He demands that they call their sect, name, and purpose of the visit, to which the young man replies that, as they can see from the insignia on their clothes, they arrived from the desert fortress. The guy calls his name, and adds that he is from the unit of Magvanig of the desert fortress. Han Wan-chan also seems to be. The warrior frowns and asks, "Do they only have clothes from the evidence?" The young man shows him a token. The warrior is surprised. The desert fortress already allows such young soldiers to act independently. Han Wanchan continues to stand, holding the token in his hands. A voice is heard. Enough. At the entrance there is another warrior, and looks at them. He says that now is the wrong time for visits. They have a war. He hopes that they understand that they cannot blindly trust strangers. Han Wanchan is clearly annoyed. He says, "Well, okay. Incredible power comes from the young man." Warriors understand that travelers really arrived from the desert fortress. One of them, pointing to the young man with a finger, says that they dared to put pressure on the student of the sect Zhongnan right at his house. Han Wanchan asks, "In the sense?" Yun Xin, watching what is happening, thinks that the battle with the tyrant's sword is not so smooth with them. It seems that the pride of one of the 9 of the greatest sects of the world is very hurt. And then some youths showed up claiming that they were warriors of the desert fortress. Naturally, this causes irritation. Enshina and Han Wanchan announce distrust. The warrior says they are so young, and already warriors of the desert fortress? Times are not simple today. Even if they are really from a deserted fortress, then there is still a problem. If this is a reinforcement for Zhongnan, then why are there only 2 of them? Is the greatness of the desert fortress already in the past? Now a powerful aura is wrapped in Xin. Taking up the sword, he says that it is not worthless to insult the warriors of another sect for no reason. He demands that they take their words back. The warriors, deciding that he threatens them, grabbing the blades. Suddenly a sword whistled over their heads. He stuck in the ground, near the warriors ready for battle, and everyone freezes. Xin hides the blade in the scabbard. There is a scream. "Stop!" A girl rushes from the forest to them. She makes an incredible jump, and it turns out between the students of the desert fortress and the soldiers of the Zhongnan. Xin notes that she is amazingly beautiful, but, more importantly, it is extremely strong. He understands that the girl is not inferior to soldiers in blue clothes from the desert fortress. One of the guys turns to her as a mentor. She says, "Just look at them." The girl believes that their words and actions are no good. She adds that they will then talk and tells them to leave. The warrior asks for forgiveness, calling her a great mentor. He says he is very ashamed. The girl turns to the travelers. She asks for forgiveness for showing them an unsightly side. At the same time, she calls them powerful warriors of the desert fortress. Xin again seems to be called the name and unit to which it belongs. Then he calls his companion. The girl says that she is from the sect of Zhongnan, and her name is Weiji Miyoku. Han Wanchan heard about her. This is the cloud dragon of the sect Zhongnan. About Weiji Mukwe, there are rumors with might and main that she is a genius sent by heaven, who had already created a name in the world of martial arts. For several moments in the clearing, silence reigns. Then Hong Vuchan says that it is a great honor for him to meet such a legendary warrior as a cloud dragon. Yun Xin admits that from their part, it was rude to appear without an official message from the desert fortress. He says that he is ashamed of the great Weiji. The girl replies that she saw Han Wanchan tried to convey the purpose of the visit, but their warrior rudely interrupted him. She believes that rather, she needs to apologize on behalf of Zhongnan. She asks respected guests to forgive for the inconvenience, and promises to take them to the headquarters. The girl believes that the rest can be discussed after they go upstairs. The guy thanks Weiji Mukwa. A warrior descends up the stairs to them. When he sees Xin, he is very surprised. This is the older brother of the guy. A scream is heard, "Uncle!" And the little he rushes towards him, leaving behind the old man and girl accompanying her. She rushes to the neck of Yunshina, who had already crouched to welcome her. He asks his niece, "How is she?" But instead of an answer, the girl is only tightly pressed against him. Han Wanchan touched the scene that played out in his eyes. The old man and the girl also approached them, and silently observed what was happening. Weiji Miofwa says that the leader of the sect and elders went to battle with the enemy masters of the sword. She explains that since they arrived from the desert fortress, she brought the only sect of the elder. The guys appear to call their names. The old man replies that his name is Young Isle. Han Wanchan is amazed. In front of them is the master of the sword, Zhongnan. The guys are inclined in a traditional welcoming bow in front of a great warrior. Young Isle is the strongest warrior of his generation. Xin thinks, perhaps he is even stronger than his grandfather on the maternal line of Ma Yonjoka. The old man asks the guy to whom his niece is pouring, how old is he? He replies that he is 16 this year. The old man is somewhat puzzled. He asks the guy to look at the rock, turning his gaze into the indicated direction. Xin sees a huge sign carved on the stone. The girl is alarmed. She asks the old man, He is not going to tell the extraneous secrets of the sect? She adds that conveying the style of Nine Yan is the long-standing dream of their clan. Young Isle answers, only now his creator was never a member of their sect. One of the founders of Zhong Nan made friends with him and sheltered at home, and in his last years, he had already cut the secrets on Mount Zhongnan. Therefore, the style of Nine Yan cannot be considered martial art exclusively their clan. And does not take her eyes off En Shin. The girl clearly missed him. The old man continues to speak. His time is running out. If finally he sees the sword of his benefactor at least once, he will be able to leave without regrets. He turns to the girl. While she is the only one who is able to revive the style of Nine Yan, but he cannot entrust the dying will only to her. Weiji Myakwa replies that she does not understand. He just can't understand. Is he going to bequeath to her first in person? What did he find in him? The old man says, "Take a look at yourself." The girl obediently turns her head in the direction where En Shin stands. He still looks at the carved sign. Weiji Myokwing pays attention to his enchanted gaze. She thinks, did he really enter the trance, looking at the path of the sword? En Shin studies a drawing on a rock. This is a trace of the blade. He is sure. A few lines cut out by the blade on the rock, some inhuman skill. Approaching, the old man says, "One master of the sword cut it out 49 years ago." Han Wanchan asks, "Does he mean Gu Yanjuana?" Jung-il responds in the affirmative. Exile, who founded the sect of a broken sword, one of the most famous martial arts schools. The young man thinks, if he was even to their leader, then probably an outstanding master. The old man says that this man raised him, a hungry orphan, on his back and ascended Mount Junnan. Han Wanchan is interested in, so this master Guayanjun accepted the elder in the sect Zhongnan. But why couldn't he master his martial arts then? Jung-il sighing answers, because it is not fate, this is life. He did not have enough talent. Not only him, but many swords of their sect did not succeed. Only knowledge or skills is not enough to comprehend the outstanding art of owning a sword. The young man carefully studies a cave breed. He reads the inscription. Only worthy will be rewarded. The old man explains, this is completely a matter of talent. He says that they have their expectations on Weiji Mojwa. She tries not to show this, but probably experiences a large burden of responsibility. Yun Shin exhales. The old man nurses him. The guy turns to him and he asks, "What does he see?" The girl looks at him in amazement. "Really?" En Shin takes the sword from the scabbard. The guy resolutely goes to the rock, but the explosions are suddenly heard. Weiji Mirahu says that this is a sect of a tyrant sword. Honvu-chan asks, "She wants to say that they were attacked?" Elder Jung-il believes that guests are better off to wait here, and Shin listens to the sounds of the battle, which began somewhere nearby. The old man and the girl leave guests with her older brother En Shin and his niece. Weiji Myra, looking around, asks them to take care of Hiei. The guy's brother promises to stay with the girl. The elder and the girl rush to where the explosions were heard. En Shin believes this is not the first attack. He asks his brother, "Do these two always fight for them?" He answers, "Who knows who attacked there?" He explains, "It happens that only the masters can hit the enemy. So they go. It is not easy to get into the location of the sect, because it is located almost at the very top of the cliff, where steep steps lead. The guy believes that Zhongnan has big problems, even if the elder of one of the strongest sects is forced to defend the monastery. Han Wanchan says they did not have time to come, as the trouble had already happened. En Shin answers, "It means it's time to intervene." The young man says, "Even if En Shin thinks so, then this is impossible. Local warriors will fall in bones, but will defend their pride of the strongest." He saw with his own eyes. If it weren't for Madame Weiji Mira, then the matter could have ended badly at that time. En Shin answers, "It does not seem to have time to relax." They are interrupted by someone's voice, who tells them not to speak rashly about their warriors. Looking around, they see the young representatives of the clan Zhongnan, whom they already had to meet. En Shin replies that his friend did not say a single disrespectful word about them. One of the young warriors says that words can be interpreted differently. Do they really not understand that they are not accepting a deserted fortress everywhere with open arms? The guy thinks that he agrees with them here. There are many envious people. Han Wanchan asks, "Didn't their masters go down to battle?" He believes that they lack hands. The warrior's face is distorted from anger. He forbids strangers to insult their sect. Suddenly a group of armed men appears, and En Shin realizes that the enemy broke through the guard of Zhongnan. Young warriors, seeing armed people rushing to them, shout that this is a tyrant sword. En Shin thinks, How much are they working here? That they even got here. Frightened, he is tightly pressed against his defender. One of the opponents orders to kill the child. The main heritage of local swordsmen. Warriors Zhongnan expose blades. The leader of the opponents goes to Ian Shin and his friend. He asks that the youths from the desert fortress forgot here. The man asks the question. Their sect decided to intervene because she was bored without deeds? En Shin thinks that they took advantage of the bustle of the battle to kill children like Heya. Looking back at Han Von Chan, he pronounces one word, help. The young man promises to cover. Then the guy decides to attack the enemy. He rushes forward, taking out the sword from the scabbard on the move. Blade of the warring parties cross. The man begins to retreat under the pressure of En Shin. Companions rush to his aid. Han Wan Chan immediately rushes forward to block their way. He attacks one of the opponents and drives his sword right into the man's chest. But behind him there is already a second enemy with a sword brought. En Shin, meanwhile, crowns the enemy, whose face does not express not superiority, but anxiety. He blocks the next blow with the help of a blade and scabbard, and then he decides to attack the guy. Having gathered all his strength, he rushes at En Shin. He is already confident in his victory. But the guy uses the technique of a wave of shining wings, and it turns out behind him. The sword of Yun Shin pierces the enemy's body through. All the fighters freeze, looking in their direction. The man is surprised to look at the tip of the sword sticking out of his chest. He cannot believe that such a young man had coped with him. The guy pulls out the sword, and the enemy settles at his feet. En Shin makes a swing with a sword from which streams of blood flow out. Not far from him is Hong Von, who by this time also dealt with his opponents. Warriors Zhongnan are now in a completely different look at them. Han Von Chan turns his head in their direction. And Yun Shin, seeing that there were no more opponents left, hides the sword in the sheath. A friend follows his example. The joyful He-A runs to Ian Shine. One of the warriors Zhongnan admits that they reacted too sharply and apologizes for rudeness. At this time, the elder Young Isle and Weiji Mojuhi are approaching them. They look around the clearing, on which the corpses of members of the Tirana sword sect are lying. The old man believes that Zhongnan owes him. En Shin, clutching the child to him, replies that he only defended He-A. Young Isle says that the girl is the hope of their sect. She will follow the path of Weiji Myokfa. He adds, the guy gave great mercy to their sect. En Shin replies, if he really thinks so, then he will consider it an honor. En Shin puts He-An on the ground and turns to the elder with a request. He asks, can he practice a little with them? The guy explains that he is not ready to leave yet. What he felt when looking at the mountain does not let him go. The old man believes that he really had an insight. En Shin looks back. He carefully studies the drawing carved on the rock. Taking off the sword from the scabbard, he thinks that thanks to the confrontation with the swordsman from the tyrant, he understood a lot. He lunges with a sword that radiates powerful energy. The guy continues to train, forcing the elder to be surprised at his capabilities. He thinks that chi flows not the way he was planning. The guy says that he has not yet comprehended the legacy of this master of the sword. En Shin says, this trace is clearly fraught with skill, calling for expanding perception. Young Isle replies that the trace of a master of martial arts, which founded his sect, is permeated by his special spiritual energy. It is beyond the line of the habitual martial arts for them. The old man is sure that the guy is the same as that master, since he is generally able to touch his light. Such is his essence and purpose, he believes. The guy asks, the elder seems to be talking about the fact that the last days he lived in Zhongnan? The old man answers in the affirmative. It is. En Shin suggests that the style of the master probably intertwined with the skill of this sect. The style of Zhongnan is too expressive. He is not suitable for the guy. He believes that his development will not be useful for him. Weiji Mirahu asks him to explain what he has in mind. En Shin says that the restoration of the technique of the clan of the GU is completely their burden. However, he can help a little. In the eyes of the girl, the hope of the fact that with his help, she will master the lost technique of the sword lights up. Weiji Myokwe is not even believed in it. En Shin asks her to wait a minute. He says his training is not yet completed. The guy goes to the rock. Taking out the sword from the scabbard, Yan Shin thinks. When he saw those rocks on the cliff, he experienced strange sensations. It seemed to him that the sky and earth turned over, clenching into a single line. Entire becomes in a combat rack, squeezing the blade in the hand. And then the guy illuminates. Is it enough to just be faster than the enemy? Now he understands why Tai Chi techniques and flowering plums are considered the highest art of the morale world. He outlines the energy circle around him with a sword, thinking that exalted techniques differ from ordinary fencing. After all, they are intended not only to wave their sword beautifully, but also embody the whole philosophy. Merging with the stream of qi, they create an unprecedented harmony. Until now, he has not understood what the true skill of fencing is. The elder, with enthusiasm and distrust, monitors the actions of Shin. The guy makes the final swing with a sword, ending with a demonstration. Stopping, he turns to the elder. Shin asks, "Have they already chosen the name for this technique?" Without waiting for an answer, he says that he will call her flickering luminaries. Then he adds, "Like luminaries filling this world, which never fade away. He wants his life to be just the same." Shin, sitting in a room on a small elevation, watches a friend drink tea. The guy thinks he received a lot in this place. He saved his niece and created his own technique of sword. Han Wunchan says that he would like to take this golden tea with him. Smaking the drink, he declares his confidence that thanks to Shine sect, Zhongnan will provide him with such mercy. The guy, recalling the behavior of a friend during the battle, thinks that not only Zhongnan owes him a victory. Does the young man call him Master Young? Then he pays his attention to the voice sounding from behind the door. The sash is opened, and Weiji Myohwa enters the room. The girl says that he wants to hear that the guy did not tell that time. Shin asks, does she mean the legacy of the great master? They leave the room and go for a walk. The girl explains that she would not want to talk about this to the students of the sect, but she really wants to get rid of the shadow of the master of the sword. She says that her spirit tells her to step in her own way, absorbing all available techniques. Weiji Myohwa talks about his desire to become a great master once. The guy expresses his readiness to help her. Shin promises to help the girl. Weiji Myokuhi is puzzled. Did not insight be awarded? She thought he would just share his knowledge. She believes that she did not politely set out her request. The girl inclines her head in a traditional bow and says, she asks the guy to teach her the art of the master of the GU on her example. She swears to read him until the end of her days for the mercy provided. Shin silently looks at her without saying a word. She asks, he can't do it? The guy invites her to follow him. He says that it will not take much time. Hope appears in the eyes of the girl. She answers, with great pleasure. Elder Jung Isle at dusk stands on a small bridge. He sees how the guy and the girl are heading somewhere. When they approach the rock on which the drawing was carved, Shin says that he will show the concept at first. Weiji Myohwa does not quite understand what he has in mind. She cannot believe that the guy understood the very essence, but did not easily catch the actions in general terms. Shin says, if she succeeds in recreating this, the technique will not be absolutely identical, and then the business is already at her talent. The girl is struck by his words. Is there really such a talent in the world? The guy does not understand why this warrior looks at him like that. He thinks, maybe he should be easier to speak. He says that he will show her an ideological component, and how she will complete the technique. This is her business. Weiji Myokubu, looking at Shin, thinks that it should not be difficult. After all, than to follow the traces of the sword, comprehending every step, it is easier to walk along a beaten path. The guy offers to start, and the girl picks up a sword. The next day, Elder Jung Isle says Eun Shina. Hearing that he comprehended the secret of technology, the girl simply enveloped the Sima, the condition in which the mind and body come into confusion, interfering with the achievement of insight. The guy is somewhat puzzled by his words. The old man says, Weiji Myohwa was simply shocked by his abilities. He explains that nevertheless, the girl was considered the best among peers who had no equal. Everyone around called her a master of martial arts of the Middle Kingdom. Shin listens carefully to the old man. He continues to explain the condition of the girl. He says that she first had to feel her insignificance. When she saw the training of a guy, a true master, this feeling settled in her heart. Shin replies that it is pointless. The great cloud dragon of the sword is much superior to him. Young Isle says that the sky has made a fatal mistake. Instead of proud of outstanding talent, the guy is modestly justified by the shortcomings. Shin believes that the old man exaggerates. Screams are heard. Someone calls the elder Chon. Looking around, they see Weiji Myohwa hurrying to them. Approaching, she bows her head in a traditional greeting. The old man says he knew. She will quickly cope. Turning to Shine, the girl says, since he has mastered secret techniques, will he not complicate him? Demonstrate his skills to them? The guy agrees to fulfill her request. Weiji Myohwa asks, can they study the art of Gu together? Training in this way, they will be able to replenish each other's gaps, and then he will achieve success faster than doing it alone. Shin asks her forgiveness, but he does not have time now even to honing his own sword techniques. Noticing her grief, he adds, however, since their technician has a single concept, She can learn something by watching him. He promises to call the girl when he trained the flickering of the luminaries. Weiji Myohawk is surprised. She asks, will he allow her to watch his training? Shin responds in the affirmative. He believes that in turn she will be able to improve her technique, working out his movements. The girl is amazed. She can watch the flickering of the luminaries. She says that the great master here is a guy, not her. The old man believes that generosity should have limits. In his opinion, the guy has already reached a level that could overshadow all the Middle Kingdom. Shin recalls what he was already told. You cannot watch someone else's training of martial arts. He completely forgot about it, because he was used to the fact that in Magvanig, they openly discussed military equipment. Chan Man said that they could even kill for this. Shin then asked the teacher. He calmly shows them his tricks when he teaches them, isn't it? After all, they train all together, so they involuntarily see everything. Bai Mei explained that this is completely different. A full-fledged combat training should never be shown. Watching someone's training of martial arts is Muram's unspoken taboo. The guy thinks it seems that because of this, he was not so understood. He takes out the sword from the scabbard, and the girl copies his movements. Then they synchronously rush forward. The guy demonstrates the technique of the Palmar bud. The flows of internal energy and the flickering of the luminaries are completely different from the technique of the unfading radiance of the Palmar bud. There is a continuous flow in the flickering of the luminaries. The maintenance of the sword occurs without the slightest horseshoes, and the blade is felt by the continuation of the body. Such unity is possible only because he created this technique personally. He gave rise to the flickering of the luminaries. Shin and Weiji Myo synchronously lunge with a sword, and the girl constantly watches the movements of the guy. She thinks that for many years she tried to recreate the technique of the GU clan. Therefore, the guy's attempts initially seemed rude to her. However, in terms of skill, he instantly surpassed her. They began to study the technique at the same time, but their successes turned out to be completely different. The girl understands that the difference in speed is simply colossal. Shin continues to swing the sword. He is completely absorbed in his occupation. Weiji Myoha thinks that he absorbs everything with lightning speed. She is far from him. Despair appears in the girl's eyes. She understands that of them two dragon here is definitely not her. Shin is located in the hall, where a man with spicy ears sits in an armchair. And next to him is Il Shin, the elder of the sect, Zhongnan. The woman thinks that by the will of fate they met again. The boy, whom she noticed on the day of the massacre at the Chan estate, grew up in a real warrior. The heavenly master of the sword, Guanyang Shin, the head of the sect and the son of the elder Young Il, carefully looks at the guy. Finally, he decides to start a conversation. The man reports that he had rumors that the warrior Magvanig knew the heritage of his late father and shared secret techniques with Weiji Myra. In addition, he saved the young students of the sect Zhongnan. He says that Ian Shin redlined them a great service and asks, what does he want to get as a reward? The guy asks him for permission to help them in the fight against the Tiran sword sect. Weiji Myochu stubbornly continues to master new equipment. Young Il, observing her attempts, says that her concentration is broken. The girl asks him for forgiveness for only distracting him in vain. The old man asks, is this because of Ian Shin? Weiji Myofu, his head, answers that the case is not in a guy, but in her. She thinks that he does everything wrong. Sword Young Shin recognizes everything, and the fact that she honed her whole life turned out to be meaningless. She asks the elder, the flickering of the shining of this young man is not at all inferior to the original technique of Gu, is it? The old man agrees, yes, it is. Remembering the movements of Shin, she says that it was not just a newcomer skill. Although they trained together, he seemed to be a few steps ahead. The very fact that someone managed to create new martial art is incredible. But the fact that he took possession of him, not studying the original technique, and at the same time surpassed it, just shocking. The elder agrees with her. This young man immediately reached what she had strove for so long. He tells the girl that Yen Shin is definitely a great master, whose skills are incommensurable with his age. However, he believes that it was obvious that the guy quickly masters the martial art that he himself created. After all, everything in this world is best suited to the creator. It seems that he really has exceptional talent. Weiji Myohuing sighs. She will never keep up with him. Live in the same era with such a master. The elder asks her to try to find positive aspects in this situation. She has successfully mastered the foundations of the GU technique. The girl agrees, yes, it is worth a lot. The old man carefully begins. He did not want to say this, but Yen Xin, the owner of the open point of Bai Hui, susceptible to nature itself. He says that through it a person accepts the power of heaven and earth in a deadly excess. Even the greatest masters are unable to endure such a gift. The girl asks, "What does he want to say this?" The old man replies, he did not have to live long. He adds that, despite this, the guy continues to fight. Yunshin is like a flame that is trying to leave a mark in the world. Young Il says that he deeply respects his desire, regardless of the level of skill or age. The girl is shocked by his words. Plains of Guanchen. Under the leadership of Gujan Shina, the army of the sect Junnan expects an enemy. Among them, Enshin froze in anticipation. He longs for a meeting with the head of the Turanian sword. Han Wonchan tells the guy that he was granted by his sworn enemy. The young man peers carefully into the distance. Then, turning to Ian Shine and seeing his dull look, asks, "What is it?" The guy answers quietly, "Nothing." Looking at the ranks of the soldiers, he mentally asks his friend, why did he come here if he could stand aside? A man in a bright cloak breaks out of the rows of opponents. Having made an incredible jump and landing, he raises a sword above his head and appears, the third student of the leader of Vimuka. He asks, which of them dares to accept his sword? Guy Yangshin listens how he will boast, promising to fight him to respect him here and now. Enshin turns to the head of the sect and the elder. He asks them for permission to join the battle on behalf of their sect. Weiji Meshihu is struck by his request. She recalls the old man's words. He continues to fight like a flame that she is trying to leave a mark in this world. Guy Yangshin gives him permission, and the guy thanks him. Enshin is rapidly going to the enemy. While he is coming, all the eyes turn to him. Young Isle, looking after him, thinks, a great master living a single moment against fate. He has already become a legend. Vu Mu Kek, seeing the guy, mockingly pronounces, "It seems that the days of the sect Zhongnan are numbered." And Shin's hand clenches into a fist. The enemy arrogantly examines him. Then he pronounces, "I see." Vu Hek asks, "He is the boy from the family of Yong, right?" Distributing the sword, the third student of the leader says, "What impudence." Surrounding ominously, Vi Mook continues. He had to kill him even then, but, fortunately, he again appeared before him. He adds, "If the guy believes that everything will be the same as last time, then he is very mistaken." And Shin is a look with the leader of the Tyrant Sword sect. Vu Mukeku is unable to start the battle. He asks the guy, for a long time he was going to stare. Yun Shin retses an enemy's blow. Their confrontation is surrounded by energy flows. The guy's face expresses determination to be even with the enemy who took an active part in the extermination of his family. V Muhak appreciated his skill, pronouncing, "Not bad." En Shin replies, one famous person once said, by a wave of the blade one can judge the abilities of the enemy. The guy thinks that now that he has mastered the real art of fencing, he understood a lot. He pronounces aloud, means how it is felt. On the face of his enemy, puzzles and bewilderment are already appearing. En Shin uses the technique of flickering the luminaries. Vu Hek is forced to retreat under his pressure. He understands that he very much underestimated the guy. The head of the sect is Zhongnan, with tension monitors the progress of the battle. No one understands what happened. The battle was just in full swing, and now the opponents froze, lowering the blades. The blow of the sword En Shin walked along the neck of Vaimuk. And at a time when Ian Tyre hides the weapon in the scabbard, the head of his enemy falls to the ground. The views of the guy and the leader of the Tehran sword sect meet again. Pointing to it with the handle of the blade, Yun Shin says that his hand was cut off. The man's lips touched a condescending smile. Young warriors Zhongnan shouting Enshin. Scraps of conversations about lightning-fast genius and flicker of luminaries are heard from all sides. Everyone admits that this is truly the mysterious and grandiose art of fencing. In addition, incredibly powerful. The cultists of the Tehran sword sect do not believe in their eyes. Someone says, "Yes, it cannot be like that." Mukek did not even have time to do anything. The leader gives the order to kill all the warriors Zhongnan. His assistants rush to the attack. Their opponents rush towards them. Han Wanchan enrages Yin Shin. An experienced warrior who visited more than one battle is sent to the guy. Even from afar, he begins to shower En Shin with insults. The lightning, Audic genius understands that the man is dangerous, and he is clearly too tough for him. The warrior threatens to kill him. En Shin believes that this is a relative of Vimuke. He replies that he hopes he will last longer for at least a couple of seconds. In the jump, attacking the guy, the man asks, "How does he laugh?" Forward, Ian Shin breaks out the elder Jung Isle. He hit the warrior with internal energy. The old man decides to take a fight for the guy. Looking around, he tells En Shin that thanks to him, He received a valuable lesson, and then rushes forward. Meanwhile, the opponents became close, and the battle ensued. Shin thinks, when you fight with a group of enemies, you should not break ahead. You need to choose the one you can defeat. He hears a cry, "Kill him!" A group of soldiers with spears and swords rushes to him. The guy is not going to retreat. He is full of determination, and is waiting for the approach of enemies. With ease, Iantire reflects a spear blow. While with a scabbard he holds the enemy's pressure, his hand with a sword soars up. He uses the technique of flickering the luminaries. Mentally he begins to account for the murdered enemies. 1. Another wave of the sword is 2. Opponents are no longer in a hurry to attack him, and the guy himself attacks them. He moves forward, continuing to count. 3, 4. Shin feels the danger on both sides. He sees how men simultaneously attack him. Having increased speed, he avoids impact. The blade of the second opponent rates the sword. He makes a wide swing with a sword, and then he pronounces 5. The next warrior of the tyrant's sword of the Sword of Tirana again rushes to him. Shin hears Crack Han Von Chana, fighting his shoulder to his shoulder with him. The young man seems to be slightly touched by a sword. Nothing serious happened to the friend, but the guy still makes a rage. Elder Il Shin walks along the forest path, accompanied by Shin. She says that the preliminary fight ended with the victory of the young hero. She is sure that he did the right thing, that he intercepted the initiative. The guy believes that she is flattering him. Il Shin replies, in vain he is so, in their sect, many are now equal to him. Soon he will have no end to fans. The guy recalls several cases confirming her words. Recently, one of the young warriors boasted that a good wine was dispersed, covering it from the eyes of the brothers and the teacher. He invited Shin to join him. The second warrior sighed upset when he found out that Shina was already called to the duel. Another young man said that the students of Sealgak seemed to actively show interest in him. He assured that he was resolutely suppressing this. Shin must first arrange sparring with him. The guy hears his interlocutor naughty. Master Young. Il Shin says that they managed to find out why Chan was attacked. She adds that his second brother already knows about it, but she thinks that it is better for a guy to hear about everything now. The elder hopes that this is not shocking Shin, but is still going to first ask him a question just in case. The guy answers, as the elder wants. Plain of Guanchun. An elderly warrior who attacked Shin is surrounded by his associates. Elder Young Isle, looking at them, says that it will not be easy. He explains Shin and Weiji Mukwe standing behind him that the elders came out in full force, and although there are not many of them, the girl does not allow him to finish the phrase. She believes if they win here, then everything will end. The elder asks her to take care of her students, and the girl readily replies that his order will follow. Weiji Meshuhu looks at Shin, and then he wishes him good luck. The guy replies that he also wants to overcome everything to the cloud dragon of the sword. Young Isle says that he beware of the ominous Rakshas. This is Santa of Vimuka whom he killed. The guy clarifies, the same elder of the Turanian sword clan? The old man answers in the affirmative. He is sure that in the heat of battle, he will look for a meeting with a guy. The elder says that by rank he is considered even higher than the head of the tyrant's sword. They say that he usually acts as a continuation of the body of this leader, like his arms and legs. But on the battlefield remains only his right hand. Shin thanks him for the warning. Sect leaders give a sign to the beginning of the battle. Warriors, exposing swords, rush towards each other. The girl from the clan Junnan gives the order to the fighters of Sealgak, a combat construction. The opposing forces collided. Shin straightens out with the enemy with one swing sword. Unnoticed, he is left alone with the ominous Rakshas. The man threatens that today he will not let go of the guy. He promises to bring his head to the grave of Vai Muk. The guy is waiting for the approach of the enemy. He asks, are all representatives of the demonic sect? Shin says that the subordinates of the ominous Rakshas are dying at the hands of the craftsman Zhongnan, and he continues to look for clashes with him because of his personal grievances. He is interested. Is he not ashamed? The man screams, gory in hell, and then attacks the guy. He, blinded by an energy flash, still manages to substitute his sword under his blade. The ominous Rakshas, continuing to hold the sword with one hand, the second is preparing to strike the guy a blow to the energy concentrated in his palm. Shin, seeing the enemy's intentions, puts forward a hand for protection. The force released from the clashes of two energies throws them away from each other, but they manage to resist the feat. The guy thinks that he took only one blow, and his energy is already running out. Shin believes that with the current level, he cannot defeat such a master, and applies the technique of a keen eye. The guy attacks the sinister Rakshas from behind. At the same time, Wei Jimyoku with 2 warriors attack him, but the man masterfully beats off their attacks. Shin stops. He wants to remember every movement of the ominous Rakshas. He is interested in everything. How he holds the sword, how his muscles work when hit, how he uses the strength of the legs and the slightest habits of the body. He wants to capture in memory the length of his steps and favorite ways of moving. The guy wants to make out all his techniques to the smallest details. He rushes at the man from behind. Wei Jimyoku attacks him in front. Looking at her, the guy comes to mind that this is Dunguyujin, a murderous attack at the cost of his life. The ominous Rakshas inflicts an energy blow to her stomach, and the force that hit her throws her far back. A man describes a semicircle with a sword, preventing the soldiers from approaching him. Noticing that the girl is trying to rise, the man says that her glory is not in vain. He goes to Wei Jimyoku, wanting to finish what he has begun. He waves his sword to end the girl with one blow, but behind his back there is Shin. The ominous Rakshas turning around growls. He was waiting for him. The guy can now calculate the actions of the enemy. This moment, this stand. He knows what the next blow of the ominous Rakshas will be. Shin applies the technique of destruction. With one blow, he cuts the body of a man horizontally. Without looking at the body of a defeated enemy, he is looking for the eyes of the leader of the sect of Tyrant's sword. Shin struck a mortal blow to the right hand of the leader of the Tyrant sword sect. The guy stands, frozen in place. With his whole pose, he seemed to challenge his main enemy. Shin turns to the leader, recalling his promise, pointing to the body of the ominous Rakshas. He says that he promised to cut off his hand, and did it. He stands motionless, pointing to the sword to the side where the opponents of Zhongnan are located. Han Wanchan takes a deep breath, and then screams as loudly as he can. The warrior of the desert fortress chopped off the enemy's head. The elder is defeated. Warriors Zhongnan cannot believe that such a strong enemy died by the guy's hands. The voices of men of the warring clans are heard. How could this happen? At the hands of such a boy. Did he receive an order to fight? Shin is struck by at least others. The enemy military leader is killed. One of the warriors Zhongnan, making sure that this is true, raises the sword over his head and proclaims, "The ominous Rakshas is really defeated." In the ranks of the opponents, confusion is noticeable. The warriors of the Huhunnan, on the contrary, have perked up. Elder Jung Il thinks, looking at Shin, this boy accomplished a feat. One of the military leaders of the Tirana sword sect crosses blades with Gujan Shin. He screams, turning to the leader of the tyrant sword. Enemy warriors were two-spirit. He asks him to decide on the future. Not hearing any response, the man again turns to the head of the sect. The leader grinds his teeth with anger, but is silent. He watches the fighting Shin. The guy also manages to look at him. He thinks, a strong opponent, on whom he had not dared to raise his eyes before. Even now his gaze causes awe. He sees how the leader of the tyrant sword is deleted. Shin believes that 4 years have passed for nothing in vain. Screams are heard. We retreat. Gai Yangshin and Il Shin is awarded to the guy the insignia of the recognized master, Zhongnan. They say that the novices of their sect will always provide him with a welcoming meeting if he shows them this token. The heavenly master of the sword adds, if he only needs their blades, then let him not be shy, and turns to them. Even if this business will go against the policy of the desert fortress, it will help once. Shin, hiding the sign in his pocket, replies that he will thank him with gratitude, and then he asks them to tell why Chan's house was destroyed. Il Shin believes that he deserved to find out the truth. The elder tells the guy that it all started because of the world tree. She says that this is a divine tree that supports the world. In this mysterious tree, the laws of the universe are lurking. The lands of the Jung clan were fertile, just because the roots of the divine tree touched its streets. The guy listens carefully to her story. Il Shin says, for sure he also heard that the martial arts of the desert fortress are maintained thanks to his fruits. And Shin impatiently asks, so why was the Jung clan destroyed in the end? The elder explains that he wished the tyrant's sword. These are sworn enemies of the desert fortress. They had enough reasons to destroy one weak house. She says that then they received a letter from a desert fortress, which contained a request to protect Chan's house. However, they failed. Il Shin says that now Shin'i has become a wasteland in their hands. She adds that she is really ashamed in front of him, Jung-san, his brother, and Hie. Shina and Hanvogon went out to spend Weiji Mira, Elder Jung-il, baby Hie and several warriors. The guy, putting his hand on the girl on his head, looks into her eyes, from which large peas of tears are about to slide down her cheeks. Yun Shin says hey, so that it grew big. If she becomes a swordsman, she will be able to get into the desert fortress. Weiji Myohuhu asks, they will still meet? The guy answers, if there are no tasks, he will ask him to let him go to study the dragon sword. The elder says that it is always nice to see how the streams of friendship are spreading, like the sleeves of the Yangtze River. He believes that this is a real joy for an old man who has outlived his golden age. Enshin is sure that the elder will survive for more than 1 century. Young Il sincerely wants him to fulfill his dreams. The guy and his friend include his head in a traditional farewell bow. They set off. Hanwon-chan stops to wave a guessing hand. In the inn is crowded. Almost all tables are busy. One of the visitors, holding a bowl in his hand, says, he heard that the Shazan sect does not hesitate to help the desert fortress. Like him, these old sects are already the last century. Only such as Zhongnan can boast of a victory over Tyranian's sword. A young man sitting nearby, accompanied by 2 girls, responds ironically. What does he say? He pronounces, it is immediately evident that in the world of martial arts, that beginner. Because even a stupid warrior knows that you need to keep your mouth shut if your head is on your shoulders. The man jumps up from the table. Who is the newcomer? He asks. And what is he wrong? Where are the vaunted achievements of these incomparable warriors? Having calmed down, he sits down at the table. His friend says, he heard that one of the blue swordsmen, Magvanig, recently lost his eyes. The man answers condescendingly, only chatting and knows how. Suddenly the table, under the influence of someone's energy blow, scatters into pieces. Everyone freezes and turn their heads to the door. On the threshold there is an angry Yin Shin, demanding that a man try to repeat his words. The man froze when he saw Enshin and Hongwon-chan in front of him. He uncertainly asks, are they from a deserted fortress? The young man and his companions look at the guys with noticeable interest. Yunshin and his friend go into the hall. The guy approaches a man whose height allows him to look at Yenshin from top to bottom. He says that he did not want to offend them. Putting his hand on the hilt of the sword, the guy replies that he doesn't care what he wanted there. He demands that the man say who deprived the eyes of a blue swordsman. He hastily answers, a 2-faced ghost. This is all a 2-faced ghost of the Bloody Flame clan. He says that the blue warrior was injured, protecting the Mincha family. Seeing the eyes of Yin Shin burning with pure fury, he falls to his knees and asks him to forgive him. The guy tells him to return to the meal, and do not forget to pay the owner a broken table. The man thanks him. Looking how the new arrivals are located at the table, those present begin to whisper. Such a force at such a young age is an occasion for pride. But, as expected, the masters of the great sects are nobly restrained. And Shin is asked a question. Is he not by chance a lightning Odic genius? The young man, accompanied by girls, approached them. He says, it seems that the future of the deserted fortress is not only behind the White Silin, the Namefun is enough with attire. He adds that their meeting is an honor for him. His name is Jin Jul. He is from the family of Somso. The guy also calls his name. The young man talks about the fact that, judging by rumors, a young but very strong master appeared in the desert fortress. He heard that he was right now on a mission in Somso, and is sure that this is Yan Shin. Hong Won-chan says he is very insightful. Jingjul asks, do they keep the way south, and asks for permission to join them. En Shin is somewhat puzzled by this pressure. The young man says, he understands that from the first oncoming it sounds burdensome, but he would really like to establish relations with the masters of the desert fortress. The guy is interested. How does he know where they are going? He explains that after the battle between Zhongnan and the Sword of the Tyrant, everyone who is not laziness is gossiping about Magvanig and the desert fortress. Jinjul says that all the eyes are chained to them. Even the most seedy sects are already aware of the events. Unshin replies that they will continue after a meal. Walking along the forest road, Hanwon-chan colorfully describes the battle of Yenshin with the ominous Rakshas. He says that the scream of Enshin, notifying that he chopped off the head of the elder of Tiran, was like a lion's roar of a monk from Shaolin. The young man tells how all the warriors Zhongnan and Tiran's sword heated and began to turn around. At the same time, he looks at the girls, wanting to make sure that his story made a due impression. One of them says that this had to be seen. The second considers his story funny. Jinjul, who walks with Enshin a little ahead of the satellites, is sure that since the master from the desert fortress says so, then this is not a lie. How can I not believe? The girl asks, did they really kill that very sinister Rakshas? Enshin replies that he just struck the final blow. He says that there were still such swordsmen as a dragon blade, a silent fist, and a rock sword. At first they exhausted the enemy and distracted his attention. Hanwan-chan decides to make clarity and says that the guy is just modest. The last blow to En-shin was dazzlingly accurate. Approaching the lake, the travelers decide to rest a little. Hanwan-chan says that he will go to look for some beast. He wants to dinner with meat. Girls are called to go with him. En-shin leans over the lake, wanting to get water into a bottle of water. Jinjul asks, he does not accidentally own his left hand? The guy replies that the battle is more reliable on the right. He studied the techniques a little with his left hand, but not deep. The young man answers, I see. Then, taking out the knife and raising his hand to strike, he says that the left side is the weakness of the tire. The knife is rapidly approaching the neck of the guy, who had already put his hand on the hilt of the sword. But Hanwo, who approached behind, manages to strike the first to strike. The man who called Jing Julia did not expect his soon return, and missed the moment of his appearance. The young man falls into the river, and the young man says that he knew. The dye from the hair is washed off, exposing their true red color. Hanwan-chan says, this is a killer from a clan of a bloody flame. The guy is interested. And where is his companions who introduced themselves as merchant daughters? The young man replies that they probably are already crossing Sumdokon, 3 roads of the river of death. Dead girls lie in the clearing. Friends decide to continue their way. En-shin believes that another half a day and they will be in place. The sunset sun stained the heavens in orange. They got to see already at dusk. They go to the inn where they left their friends. Chan Men, whose eyes are hidden under the bandages, says that En-shin committed something unimaginable. Kill the elder from 13 heavens. Even he did not accomplish such feats. En-shin is painful to look at the wounded friend. He sighs. It means that rumors still turned out to be true. Bai Mei says, there is little Chan Men and a lightning Otic genius there. She reproaches him, considering the recklessness to go out against the elder of the tyrant sword. She claims he was just lucky to do without injuries. Hanwan-chan is a little upset that no one pays attention to him. En-shin asks, what happened, and where did the mentor Ma Jin go? The girl replies that he went in pursuit with other masters of the desert fortress. She says that these are all the fault of the Bloody Flame clan. They wanted to find out what the enemy is plotting, because the probability of the arrival of reinforcement from their main base was quite high. En-shin asks, so the elder lost his eye? The girl says that a two-faced ghost, He-Tite, used a bomb. A clan of 4 celestial halls. This happened at the time of a fight with a bloody demon with a sword. Bai Mei says that Chan Men could easily dodge, but there were civilians behind him. The young man sighs and admits that in vain he stuck that thing with a sword. Suddenly a round bomb breaks the window and flies into the room. She falls to the floor. Seconds remain before the explosion. A deafening roar is heard and a fire begins in the inn. Chan Men, already standing in the yard, turns his head towards the flame and grunts. Having slapped his hand on the shoulder of Hanwan-chan, who swayed from these actions, he says again, Zdorov. En-shin and Bai Mei are next to them and immediately grab the swords. The guy notices a man whose hands are chopped off on the elbow. He watches the fire and the vanity caused by this incident. En-shin thinks that this is probably the same Tite. The girl and Yun-shin simultaneously take a step in his direction. Then the guy stops and says that they help the locals. He will deal with this person himself. En-shin approaches Tite, putting his hand on the hilt of the sword. A man, a cliff of teeth, notes that a blue robe is dressed on a guy on top of white. He concludes that in front of him is a lightning, Otic genius, about which there have been so many rumors recently. Tugui believes that a loud nickname made him arrogant. He asks, did the guy hear that he took the eye of the blue-eyed demon? En-shin is interested. What does he need here? Didn't they get to the north? Tite answers. He wants to sign a death sentence. At the same time, he points to Chan Mina and claims that he came to deal with this blue-eyed lousy. En-shin is interested in, is it worth the risk of encountering the representatives of the sects Skasen and Magvanig? Turney shows him a bandaged stump and asks, does he really not understand what it means to be left without a hand for a warrior? He says that the guy seems to be called a genius, but in reality he is so tight. Tugui believes that he is no different from the rest of the fools. En-shin applies the technique of flickering the luminaries. The enemy, concentrating the strength in the palm of his hand, rushes towards him. His hand reaches for a guy. En-shin is surprised. A gold aura. He resorts to the first technique, a spiral. The enemy, struck by the power of his blow, falls to his knees. En-shin is interested. Is this the technique stolen by him? Tite, scanning angrily, says no. This is a martial art, which initially cannot be within the power of mere mortals. A completely new and incomprehensible combat teaching. The guy answers briefly, a lot of extra words. The enemy calls him a boy. Tugui says, he heard that the guy buried his family behind that mountain. He is interested. Does Ian Shin want to look? How comfortable is it now? Tugui says that he brought the anger of the sect of Bloody Flame. Didn't he think that his native lands would be left alone? He tells that they all digged there and burned the bodies of all his relatives. And Shin recalls the house. He, as if again, sees in reality a young, cheerful maid who worshipped him in the morning. The elder brother, who was always amused by the fact that he sleeps so tightly. Before his mental gaze, a dying father stands, who finally examined the quality of the head in his son. Tight, laughing, asks, does he really think that he can kill him? And Shin, looking at the rampant enemy, thinks, how to deprive the warrior of Murim of all hope. Several ways come to mind. Firstly, you can kill his mentor or brother at school. Secondly, you can deprive him of the opportunity to practice art. He thinks, but what if this fan of martial arts will lose everything at once? He decides that a severed hand should be enough. Tugui attacks in Shin. His hand is covered by a gold aura, but when he sees that the guy answers him the same, he is fury. The man screams, how dared to copy the gold aura? And Shin expects when Tugui approaches him, and then intercepts his hand, listed for impact. The worshipping from his own impotence is showering him with insults. And Shin, squeezing his wrist stronger, says that, in his opinion, this technique works better. The man is amazed, incredibly. In a second, the guy understood his unique skill and even improved him. And Shin thinks, here it is. A way to crush the soldiers of Samvaido. Their techniques are life itself. They build them for years. It is enough to demonstrate their uselessness, or an improved version right in front of the enemy's eyes. The guy squeezes the man's hand more and more and looks into his eyes testingly. He asks, he's wondering how he did it? He, suffering from unbearable pain, hardly says how. And Shin, laughing, answers, so he told him. The guy squeezes his hand even more, pouring powerful inner energy into his palm, which makes his opponent yell from intolerant pain and powerlessness. Having tumbled tight to the ground, Yun Shin, continuing to hold his hand, raises his sword. Chon Men, being distracted from the battle, cannot hide admiration. Yen Shin defeated such a strong enemy. The guy puts his sword to the neck of a Tite he shows him with insults. With one wave of the blade, En Shin blows the head of the man. Suddenly he notices how a small casket falls out of a tight pocket. On the table is a tight head and a casket with a purple pill that fell out of his clothes. Ma Jin carefully examines the find. He says that this is really the pill that they are looking for. Han Von Chan, Bai Miley, Chon Men, and En Shin crowded near the teacher, examining the trophies. Ma Jin tells the guy that he will allow him to apply for raising to a blue rank. This is so fast. He is young, so let him dare. En Shin says that he heard about the examination exam, but he suggests discussing details another time. He believes that there are more urgent matters. Ma Jin agrees with him. The mentor reports that the Skasen sect was attacked. Everyone crowded around the Yen Hen, who suffered during the attack. Chongju Ginen was worried about his student. Yun Shin and Ma Jin stand behind him. The guy recalls how Yu Hyun invited him to start everything from scratch. Chongju Ginen says that the young man spent his Qi in order to protect the elder. Energy is the center of Qi in the body. It even has it in newborns. And this initial core of the boy is badly damaged. En Shin asks, is it impossible to just replenish the wasted Qi? As he knows, this is a common occurrence. Chongju Ginen says he is right. He explains, usually they easily raise students to the feet of such symptoms. The guy understands that the internal energy of Yu Hen is exhausted. Chongju Ginen says they cannot help him. Its energy centers are sharpened under the art of purple fog. Putting the box on the table in front of the man, the guy asks, even the purple pill will not help? Chongju Ginen replies that the energy of purple pill is capable of this. However, we need a master who can accommodate it and convey to Yu Hen so far the unconscious. The leader of the Masters of the Sword of the Flowering Plum says that there is no time in search of such a person. The young man has less than 2 hours. Ma Jin speaks something in an unfamiliar language. The guy is interested in what they are discussing, but this language is not familiar to him. Chongju Ginen, holding out the guy a casket, asks him to perform this rite. En Shin asks, he believes that he can do it? Ma Jin is sure of this. He says that he needs to swallow the pill and then begin to transfer energy. The mentor adds, let the guy consider it part of his test. Ma Jin thinks that the lightning genius last time instantly absorbed the energy pill. He did not even have to intervene. If anyone can assimilate the energy of a purple pill and transfer it to Yu Hen in a limited time, this is only Yen Shin. The guy replies that he understood everything. He swallows a purple pill, Shin knows that a tablet is an elixir that can be absorbed using a certain breathing technique. A person who is not dedicated to the technique of the Skasan sect will take years to learn it. Without prolonged meditation, the energy simply will not take root, which is why the Tight did not use it. He wanted to hone his martial arts first, but the guy does not need to absorb her now. It is enough for him to transfer her to Yu Hen. Shin feels this energy within himself. Energy fills the energy tan and stretches it under the influence of purple pill. Such a pace will be reduced by a huge amount of time. Chongju Ginin is amazed. The guy has already dissolved the energy of a purple pill. Shin applies a palm overwhelmed by a healing aura to the back of the young man. Radiating energy, he asks Yu Hen to accept it. He says that the art of purple fog lives in it. Let him simply accept all the energy that he will give him. The guy pours the energy received from the pill into the body of Yu Hen. Finally, Yun Shin exhales in relief and removes his palm. Chongju Ginin turns to the student. Woke up? He measures the pulse of the young man, putting his fingers to his wrist. The man is amazed at the result and does not hide it. He says that his internal energy was not only replenished, but also increased. Chongju Ginin understands that energy has completely disappeared into the young man. He accepted all the chi in the purple pill without a trace. He respects Ian Shin. This boy gave everything to the last drop, leaving nothing to himself. The man says he is a really noble person. Yun Shin thanks him for confidence. Chongju Ginin is stunned by his act. The man bows his head in front of the guy in a traditional bow, and thanks him for saving the future of the Skasan sect. He says that the guy reacted to their problem as a real hero. He promises that they will certainly pay him the same. The man adds that his mercy cannot be measured with money. He asks him to accept their gratitude. He says that soon Yu Hyun should visit the desert fortress, and he will give a gift through him. Now Shin bows his head and thanks the man. Turning around to Ma Gin, the guy asks, "He managed?" The teacher, looking at him with pride, answers, "Yes." He believes that Shin did more than enough. Desert Fortress. Shin sits in a lotus position in an empty room where only a couple of lamps stand. Next to him lies his sword. He was immersed in thought. Initially, he was going to ask the head of the Desert Fortress the promised military equipment as soon as he returned. The guy recalls how the woman promised to teach him his admission when the time comes. He thinks that while he has a flicker of luminaries and a swing of shining wings, he will better focus on their improvement. He thinks, is it possible to invest even more strength in the flickering of the luminaries? Or take an additional step in the wave of shining wings? An unfading radiance also requires continuation. He thinks, how difficult it is. And inspiration does not visit him. The thought comes to his mind, the Bezluna arena. He recalls the words of Ma Gin, recognizing him right. The mentor believes that the techniques of Magvanig and other groups are significantly different. In the end, 17 combat groups under the command of Shingom Dan are independent schools. Ma Gin said that the Bezluna arena could not be a narrow well. This is a reservoir where outstanding talents flow out, then to form the sea. For some time he sits thinking. Then the guy gets up and leaves the room. Going into the courtyard, he notices too close the attention of the students. They are whispering to whisper, a lightning, Odic genius. They say he committed an incredible feat. Pupils recall how he cut off the head of the sinister Rakshas. They talk about him as a master from a deserted fortress, which even 13 Heaven is not afraid of. While he is coming, he is accompanied by the whispering of the students. He saved the student of the head of the sect Skasan. For one mission, he secured the support of masters from legendary sects. One of the students in a blue cloak says that we should ask the guy to accompany him to a mission to Samso. Shin climbs the stairs. He comes to the training site, where students are busy with sparring. This is a stray arena. Here, warriors of all groups of the Desert Fortress can fight freely. 17 detachments are in this arena, each of which can be considered a separate combat school. Someone calls the guy and asks where he goes. Looking around, Yan Shin sees a man in the robes unusual for the Desert Fortress. Does he ask him a question? Is this a stranger arena? And he answers in the affirmative. A man, looking at him, says, a young swordsman in a blue on a white suit. He is sure that in front of him is a lightning Odic genius. Then the person says that he is an inspector from head management. The guy calls his name in response. The inspector admits that he heard a lot about him. All fresh rumors of a desert fortress reach the council. He admits that it is they who distribute ranks in accordance with their merits, and his achievements are truly impressive. The inspector is very happy about their meeting and wants to tell him one secret. And Shin asks, which one? He answers, Only one small task will allow him to rise in the rank. He congratulates Shin in advance. The inspector is glad that he jumped up today. He is appointed manager of today's matches, so he expects a lot of interesting things. He informs the guy that today the heir to the Apocryphal Mag clan is acting. Shin recalls the battle with the young man, whom his grandfather chose his successor. Before his mental gaze, every detail of this duel is facing. The inspector says that this family is famous for their skill. That boy has already won many victories among the White Warriors. He adds that although less than a month has passed since he has passed the tests in the Desert Fortress, they only talk about him in management. Shin responds briefly. I see. Suddenly, the one they just talked about stands in front of the guy. For a while, he gloomily measures his gaze, and then he offers to fight. The guy asks, who is he? The young man says that his name is Ma Sin. He asks for forgiveness because he had to introduce himself then. Shin thinks that the young man has become more modest since then, although he won many victories over the White Warriors. Ma Sin says that he has learned a lot, and asks to give him another chance. Shin thinks. He remembers that it was the young man who helped him then with the creation of technology. But is it worth it? Suddenly, Chun Men approaches them. He asks the young man, is that new? He offers Ma Si to fight him. He is in no hurry to accept his offer. He has already heard about the blue-eyed demon. Chun Men jokes, now one-eyed. He asks Shin. He does not mind. The guy is a little surprised that the friend came here. Chun Men answers, what else to do? Here at least fun, many masters. Shin asks a question, is this because of the eye? A friend answers in the affirmative. He believes that he needs to gradually return to duty. The loss of half the field of view is not a matter. The inspector, when Chunmen moved to Masainu, says, how strange. As far as he knows, usually an arrogant blue-eyed demon is ready to fight only with the strongest. Shin does not agree with him. He believes that Chunmen is a cold man. This can be seen even by his gaze. He is merciless to the enemy, but at the same time is always ready to intervene for a common people. He does not consider the young man arrogant. He thinks that usually Chunmen deliberately demonstrates outright neglect. Not one brave warrior lost his head because of this. That's why he was called a demon. The inspector says that his eyes are much infuriated. Shin replies that he did not notice this at all. The interlocutor explains, just with the guy Chunmen behaves differently because he correctly evaluates his chances. He believes that the majority of the blue would prefer not to get involved in this battle. There is nothing to say about whites. Shin does not agree with him. He thinks that the blue-eyed demon and with Hanvon Chana adequately communicates. The inspector says, trouble. Looking at the battle of Ma Se-in and Chunmena, he says that the heir to Ipfanmag chose the wrong opponent. Chunmen inflicts a strong blow, and Ma Se begins to cough with blood. The blue-eyed demon hits again, and the enemy, crumple of pain, settles to the ground. Shin looks thoughtfully at what is happening. He sees that Ma Se has reached enlightenment after participating in this duel. Chunmen, going up to Shine, says that this young man is not even bad. Even having lost one eye, Chunmen almost did not lose combat power. And Ma Se-ying, who seemed only an arrogant son of a noble family, has changed a lot. Such is the power of the citizens of the Desert Fortress. Shin hears him naughty. Majin approaches him. He reports that the manager of the Bezluna Arena wants to celebrate his adulthood. The guy is a little surprised. Do they want to conduct a rite of adulthood for him in the citadel of the Desert Fortress? The mentor answers, that's right. Shin is interested. When will the next task be? Majin answers, this is how the chapter will decide. She recognizes the makings of the guy and his potential. Shin says that he is not burning the desire to celebrate. He prefers to spend his free time thawing the art of the sword. The mentor believes that the head of the Desert Fortress understands the guy better than himself. He adds, so she ordered to voice the reward. It will be an exorbitant elixir of a rattling sky. He explains Shina that this drink has nothing to do with other elixirs of the Middle Kingdom and its properties. One sip is enough to find health and longevity. The guy thinks, one sip, and you can live without illness. What if it can delay his death? He replies that he agrees. Only one of the passing ceremony is worthy of drinking an elixir. Usually those who are higher than the white title fight for this right. But this time, everything is different. Majin says that because of him, a couple of white from noble births were allowed to join. Shin replies that this is not a problem for him. A few days later, Ma Yonchak sits behind various dishes. He complains that the head of the Desert Fortress confused all the cards. Majin sitting opposite him is interested in... Was he really ending in a rite of adulthood at home? The head of the desert fortress congratulates all those present. Among those who gathered in the square, Enshin stands. The woman says that the name accepted by the warrior after adulthood is not needed by lightning genius. Guys in blue costumes believe that the denouement is nearing. They are interested in who will try the elixir this year. Enshin hears how they are talking about the fact that judging only by merit, among the representatives of the whites there are no equal lightning-bearing geniuses. He strives up without delay. The young man in blue clothes says that many of them have only recently completed the first task. The guys believe that the power of the Murim clans is amazing. They also think that the successors of Ipkvan Mag and Tyres have amazing abilities. Meanwhile, the head of the desert fortress opens a bottle of elixir. She pours him into the bowl. Then he takes her in her hand and casts a look at the students standing in front of her. She says that this is a bowl of congratulations for them, but she will get only to those who grab her first. A woman is surrounded by an incredibly strong aura. She offers students to show ingenuity and try to pick up a bowl from her. And Shin rushes forward. Behind it is a landfill from students who, with their vanity, only interfere with each other. The guy is concentrated and purposeful. He uses the swing technique of shining wings. It was a step performed by the perfect connection of the body and chi. The head of the desert fortress looks at the guy. He resorts to the technique of a wave of shining wings, a swift step bending the will of the enemy. The cap flies from the head of a guy who does not even notice this. So he is already standing opposite the chapter. She hands the guy a bowl with an elixir. The woman says, "Try it," and Shin carefully takes the offering from her hands. Suddenly behind him the voice of Ma-Se-in. He says that the guy has no equal. All newcomers of the fortress are equal to him. The young man who kneeling in front of the chapter continues. But Shin does not know family values. He asks the question. Why, according to the guy, create sects? Past techniques from generation to generation conclude alliances. Ma-Se-in declares that he wants to fight for the title of head of the clan. Shin is surprised. What kind of nonsense? The young man demands that he choose a day and go to the brotherly duel with him. He offers to fight for the right to head the IPKHKHANMAG. In the event of the victory, he will give him his place to the heir. All those present tensely monitor what is happening. Myonchak looks calm, and Shin looks at the young man with bewilderment.